We
Okay,
are
there
live.
we go.
Hello, anybody on YouTube. I know my wife's not. I hear her in there watching women's college gymnastics.
All right. Well, this is the part of the live show where I tweet out that we are live. So you guys get to watch me do that live.
This is what Steven looks like tweeting.
Click. I
Oh,
already typed it up beforehand. So,
oh, there it was. And
and I'm spouting it as well.
you can see me as I go, and I will actually do both as well. Let's see. Okay.
There, and I retweeted it under mine.
Okay, here it is. Yes. And I will do him one better and tweet it across 1, 2, 3, 4 different Twitter feeds
Yeah, you got one of them fancy things that lets you do
that
all
I
that for you.
maintain. Yep. TweetDeck.
TweetDeck.
And I'll go to my
How long do you think it'll be?
Spout.
How big do you think Spoutable has to be before they do a spout deck?
Oh, many times over how big they are now.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they even will ever spend the type of time and money to build that kind of infrastructure. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that that's their thinking.
Yeah, probably not. Forgive student loans. You know what? I've never taken out a student loan, and I still want them forgiven.
I have
Never.
about 80 G in student loans.
Oh, well, there you go. I just never really understood that whole, well, I had to pay my loans back. It's not fair that other people get it forgiven.
Right.
You know what? That's like saying my grandmother had died from cancer. It's not fair that somebody else you're going to cure.
Yours should too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cure for cancer. That's not fair. People have to struggle.
I don't get that, but
yeah,
that's okay. I don't.
But we got one viewing so far. That might be Doug.
All right. Is it you, Doug?
Oh, I should probably open up my Audacity, shouldn't I? And get my microphone ready. Good Lord.
Okay, maybe we shouldn't have gone live yet because you just are like not ready. You're just like, yeah. What are we doing tonight? Who are you? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Which podcast is this?
Yeah. What are we doing?
All right. So we'll be doing 45, 46, and 47 tonight. Do I have the comment area up? Yeah. Okay, I do. Okay, just want to make sure. And let me make sure my microphone. Yeah.
It sounds to be picking up. Yes.
Get a few seconds of silence there on the Audacity. You got to get that. You got to get those few seconds so you can do the noise removal.
That's it. Get all the normal noise recorded.
Yeah. Love
before
that,
you make any
noise removal.
Before you make any comic book noise. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
we can't say that. Somebody else is using that.
Yeah, he's put out a few episodes lately.
Yep.
It was wild when one of his new episodes came out, and I was like, holy crap. And I listened to it, and it started with that music, and I was just like, oh, that feels good.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Kind of like when the CGS guys, the old crew, have been getting back together, that music starts up, and it's just like, yeah, that's.
Yep.
I want to go back to simpler days.
They don't have to be the same all the time, but those occasional drop-ins to the same.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's.
Yeah, because if they went back to if the regular crew, the old crew went back to their normal like 3-day-a-week schedule, I wouldn't be able to keep up. So
yeah, no, there's no way.
This is just fine and dandy with me, once every couple weeks or so.
Let's everybody
all right.
catch a breath and find something that they definitely want to talk about, and just focus in on it. And
Yep. My wife is going to pick up one of my daughters from I think it's a basketball game. She's doing concessions.
Ah, cool.
All right. Well, I got the show notes, right? Do I got my show notes? I got my show notes.
Yep, got
My
mine up.
Audacity is a recording.
Mine is as well.
So we can you know what? I'm gonna move that.
You don't really pop that much anyways. I mean,
I do. It's weird because I have this windscreen and a pop filter, and I still, some of my plosives still come through. Just
really doesn't seem that.
Well, you're getting me through the phone mic. You're getting me through the phone mic.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. For some reason, the iPhone, whatever you call that operating system, the iOS system, it doesn't allow me to use an external mic through my phone on StreamYard.
Oh,
I can,
okay.
Yeah, I can do it on other things, but when I try to, hey, Dougie Doug's in the house.
There he is. Hey, Doug.
When I try to use an external mic on StreamYard, it says, sorry, iOS has not built that into their thing yet or whatever. And it's just like, all right. So
it's like half the time these things that Microsoft with a new version hasn't built in, and it's like, but this has been around almost as long as you have. And you know.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, ear itches. Ah. Woo. Woo-hoo. Okay, then, Doug, are you ready? Wait that 3 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, by the time he responds, he may not be anymore.
Halfway through the episode.
But by the time we get his response, I should say.
Right. It's not that he's slow in
yeah,
responding.
he's not delaying.
It's the freaking internet. Let's just quit podcasting altogether. I'm just so angry about that delay.
The internet sucks.
Yeah. That, Harold Jennett, when we used to work on that webcomic together, he used to joke around all the time whenever he would send me some art. He'd be like, all right, I'd send him a script and he'd send the art and he'd go, what do you think of this? And I'd go, well, can you maybe on this panel, can you change that slightly to this? And he just go, that's it, I quit. I'm done. I'm not going to put up with this crap.
I can't work under this under these conditions. Yeah. Yep,
all right.
Doug says he's ready to go.
Okay, Doug's ready. I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Ed, I think, was born ready.
Well, no, but a couple days after.
Close enough.
Yeah, it did take me long.
Whenever you want to go.
You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 45, Superman at the World's Fair. Howdy. Welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Ed, and 1,000 miles over there to my left is another host, Mr. Steeven Orr.
Good day to you.
Good day, sir. So, I find myself, as I finished reading these books this evening, so about, I don't know, hour or so ago, in an interesting Superman position.
Oh, yeah?
Since Sunday morning until today, so that's almost 3 days, right? Sunday to Monday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, 2.5 to 3 days. I have read Golden Age, I have read Bronze Age, and I have read Modern Superman, all within that time frame.
Very nice.
So it's definitely given me an opportunity to very directly compare and contrast the same character in 3 of, I don't know, 4 or 8 or however many ages you want to say there are, not sure I've ever really read like that I could, at this point so far in my reading career, done that with any other character up until now. So it's been kind of cool as I have added on to the Superman books that I have read during that time. I'm thinking back about, well, when I read World's Finest 252, or when I read Action Comics 1051 this weekend, or oh, this is Action number 27, and just not necessarily consciously doing it, or doing it to be able to compare like that, but just in my head being able to remember, because it's been that recent, how Superman
Yeah.
acted, and
Yeah.
maybe how he was drawn, and what he could do and hasn't been able to do yet. And it's been an interesting Superman reading experience for me.
Yeah. What did you think of Action 1051?
I don't really know that there was enough there really to have a good or not a good opinion, but like a full opinion.
Yeah.
Um, who was it? Metallo that is
Metallo,
going to
yeah.
be the bag in that. He seems like he's going to be pretty badass. I'm kind of looking
Yeah.
forward to that. Um, the okay, I don't want to say too much. Have you read it?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay. The John Kent story. Okay, it wasn't bad. I guess the Wonder Girl story of the three. I think there were only three in that issue. Is the one that kind of I was like, yeah, I don't get it. I don't feel it.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah, they don't give you a whole lot, but it was just enough for me to feel fairly excited about the future
okay.
of these Superman comics. And I haven't read Superman #1 yet because they relaunched, they
No,
rebooted,
I've
but I've
I've read
I've
that
just
too.
did you now don't spoil anything for me, but just because I've been hearing great things.
Um,
Did you like it?
it was cool because something uh, is happening that is really the thrust of that story. That
Okay.
it's like, well, yeah. I mean, he's Superman, so
Yeah.
yeah, okay. And I don't know if it's happened before, and I haven't read that particular issue, story, whatever. But yeah, something the through thread for that story, I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see that. So
Yeah.
that's what I enjoyed about that story.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to, since they're no longer, they're not doing Superman Son of Kal-El,
Hmm.
and instead it's because it's the Adventures of Superman is
Hmm.
where he's gonna go. And I read that he's gonna be going in for a storyline, is gonna be part of the or will be entering the Injustice universe,
Yeah,
which
I read that too. Okay, yeah, which is
Injustice is
a game,
it
right?
yeah,
Is it?
it is.
Okay,
And I had a buddy that I used to work with that would tell me all the time. He goes, "You got to read Injustice," and I was like, "I'm not going to read a comic book that's about a video game.
yeah,
That's stupid." And I think it was available on Hoopla or Comixology Unlimited. I can't
okay,
remember. So I gave it a shot, and oh my God, it was. I mean, it's Tom Taylor. He wrote all of
right.
it, and it is so good. The art, every once in a while. Bruno Redondo, who's on Nightwing with Tom Taylor, he does a number. He does a lot of it, but not enough that but it just blew my mind how good it was. And I just chalk it up to Tom Taylor's writing, because again, it's in a I say it all the time. It's in its own universe. There are
Right,
really
and
no
it's
rules. You can kill
right.
off whoever you want to
Do
kill
whatever
off,
you want.
and
Yeah,
so yeah, you feel more of a the tension there. You don't know what's going to happen,
right,
which
right.
I enjoy. And when something does, like let's say for example, I'm gonna pick a random character because I don't think they killed this person in Injustice. But let's say, for example, they kill Hal Jordan in the comics. You're like, all right, well, okay, but now we'll just wait to see how he comes back.
Right, yeah,
You
he'll
know,
be back. Yeah,
yeah, you don't feel that way when you're like reading like a Deceased or an
yeah.
Injustice or something like
Okay,
that. You're
yeah,
just like, ah, oh, damn, they killed him. I liked him.
right, yeah, yep.
So yeah,
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I remember reading that they were gonna make that now an actual alternate universe
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
to ours, like they're doing with all these other alt universes. Yeah,
I
Doug.
was
I
I was
I really did enjoy Superman, and I not to be mean, but I'm not the biggest Superman fan, so they have to do a little bit extra to, because I haven't read Superman all my life. It's.
Yeah.
So to really, for me to say, yeah, I enjoyed it. It's got to be something different, um, as I approach my 300th issue read for this year so far in
Yeah.
my count. So it's like, yeah, they got a little work to do.
I can see the podcasting news headline now. Famous Superman podcaster isn't a big fan of
Right.
Superman.
Doesn't like Superman. Yeah. Okay. That
So
that'll be my Senate pitch when I run for Senate. Superman fan doesn't like Superman. It's yeah. Okay.
they'll be asking you that, So is it true that you hosted a Superman podcast, but you don't like Superman? I have no recollection of those
I
events.
I do not recall that as you stated.
I didn't inhale. Is that can I answer with that?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I sell myself
No,
for
go
a
ahead,
moment?
man.
You and I had talked about this a week ago, maybe, but I have been planning this podcast because that's what I need, another podcast.
Right.
But one of the things that because I'm doing this, and because I've been doing the Death of Superman over on JAF Presents, which is on a hiatus right now, but that's only because there were no books being released in 93 at this time. They literally took like a month off.
Okay.
And because they would have been rebooting everything at this point with the new
Right.
Superman. But it's got me, interested in reading, finishing the John Byrne run, which I never finished, and then just continuing on through post-crisis Superman. And so I'd been planning on starting this podcast called Superman or Else, going through all the issues one at a time, one episode at a time. And I kind of had this idea. I thought, well, what if I just release those on the Superman Super Show feed? Since we already have regular episodes dropping every Monday, I'm not going to feel the pressure to try to get one of these episodes out every single week. I can just, if I want to put an episode
Here's
out
another
one week, I
one.
can. Yeah.
Yep.
So now I will say that as of the time that we're recording this, which is February 28th, I have 2 episodes right now recorded. By the time this episode that we're recording right now, it'll release on March 13th. That week, Friday the 17th, I'll put up that first episode of Superman or Else. And I'm not going to give it its own feed. I'm just going to it's going to be part of the Superman Super Show family. It will have its own website, but beyond that, it's just going to be like extra fun episodes for people who are enjoying the show.
More Superman books.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
cool.
Yep. I think as far as the notes that I have taken for my banter, I think I'm bantered out.
All right. Well, then we will move on. Today we're going to be looking at Superman at the World's Fair, which appeared in New York World's Fair Comics. I don't even know if this has a number 2 on it, but it's considered number 2.
Yeah, it doesn't, but yeah.
Because both of these came out, well, both of these, 1 and 2, I should say, within like what, a year or like maybe 13, 14 months of each other. I mean, they were,
yeah, I think so,
kind of just put out there.
Yep.
Now this one I read had a kind of a little, it's kind of caught up in some mythology, let's say, or some is that really what happened? Turns out that there is a credible source, and if I can get to it, I will tell you what that source is. But I probably goobered that up. Or it's at the top. Somebody's book. Storytelling in the Borderlines of Science Fiction. This came out in 2014. And the authors there indicate that this issue of World's Fair Comics was on sale for 1 day,
Wow.
which was Superman Day at the World's Fair. And that was
Cool.
all. But there is the house ad that is in Detective Comics number 43 says that this has an on sale date of August 2nd.
Oh.
So the Superman Day was July 3rd, but it says it's an on sale date of August 2nd. So that's something, going on there, that those are the two competing days and competing concepts, even available 1 day on sale
Yeah.
starting. So
Well, and Mike's Amazing World has a even completely different date.
a different day. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'll get to that here then. So yeah, I read that. That's on the Grand Comics database entry for the issue.
Nice.
Oh yeah, you're right. Mike's says May 11th. So we have a May, a July, and an August.
If you have an in-house ad that gives a date, that's what I would go with. Unless they delayed it or something, but that's what I'd go with.
Well, I'd have to think that was accurate, because they're they're gonna know when they put out the, so yeah. Okay, so let's see. We've got it's written the Superman story. Now there's like this is a 100-page book, and there's like 10-ish stories, and it's like Hourman, Johnny Thunder, Sandman. I mean, it's got some Batman and Robin. It's got some of DC's biggies right now, all crammed into this one book, even though all of these characters weren't necessarily together in the same books across DC's line. It's definitely, they cherry picked from 2 or 3 of their titles and put them all in this. Probably the most popular characters, put them in this. Slam Bradley has a story in here. So this Superman story was written for us by Jerry Siegel with art by Jack Burnley. Now, let's see, is there something that comes to mind about Jack Burnley? And that is no, it's another issue that, okay. So from Mike's Amazing World of Comics, here's what happened in this story. Clark and Lois are sent to the New York World's Fair to find new stories for the Daily Planet. While at the fair, Clark recognizes notorious international jewel thief Blackie Sarto. Good name. Lois begins following the thief. She's spotted and kidnapped. When Clark notices Lois is missing, he tracks down the crooks. Sarto has stolen the Madras Emerald, which was to be displayed at the fair. Superman apprehends Sarto's gang, recovers the emerald, and then rescues Lois. Superman finally presents the emerald to the fair. Which, okay, I will say, this is the shortest of the 3 stories that we read for tonight.
Yeah.
But to me, it took me the longest to read this story for some reason. And it also felt that it was longer than and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it was me. I can't say that there was that I had a problem with the story or the art or what. I mean, it seemed very typical of the Golden Age stories that we have been reading. I don't know what went on, but I was like, yeah, man, that was like 25, 26 pages. Then when I was writing everything up, I was like, 10 pages? No way. But yeah, it was. Yeah. And this synopsis is, which is the point I was moving towards rather slowly, is pretty accurate for what felt like a long story. Was 10 pages. Sometimes they'll leave out things, or they'll stretch things out a lot more than they actually were. But this was pretty succinct and pretty accurate to what happened in the story, I thought.
Yeah.
All right.
I think the first thing that strikes me about this story is the art. I think the art was amazing compared to what we've been seeing in a Superman book. And I wish this guy would become a regular on Action or on Superman, because really, I mean, Yeah, it's golden age art. It is, but it's more of like it's kind of like saying CC Beck was just a golden age artist, and
Right.
CC Beck was phenomenal, and this is great stuff. I really enjoyed this.
The if they didn't, which I guess they did, it looks like they must have gone through and really worked on the coloring for this, because I think it really, not the uh, saturation. I think the colors are oversaturated in these editions. I've said that
Yeah,
before, but the choices for the colors seem to be a lot more than just the well, what would there have been? Four colors then, or maybe they were up to eight by now for printing. I'm not sure, but it seemed like there were more colors than usual. So I don't know if that
yeah.
is a change then, or if that's what they did when they cleaned it up to put it in this volume of Superman in the Golden Age. But the color really struck me.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to assume that it's, while they obviously they would have touched up the color, because I mean, some of the other stories, they don't, they didn't really seem to spend a lot of time trying to make those look
Mm-mm.
good for this collection. So I I don't know. I think the colors may have been what they were using back then. They just, you know, it looks a lot prettier because it's more modern. But
Yeah, there's not as much examples of bleed over, or I don't know, maybe because this is a different artist, maybe he was a better inker than what we've been having, and that inking
maybe,
allowed them to separate the colors a lot better,
yeah,
or something like that. But a lot less bleed over, a lot more uh, distinct separation, a lot more definition where he wanted definition. Now it's not like, you know, Jim Lee, John Byrne quality definition, but
yeah.
it is more than a lot of other places. Also, for anybody that's listening, if you've never read the DC book All Star Squadron, this leftover from the World's Fair, here in the first panel, the sphere and the big pyramid thing. It's got a name. I forget what it's called, but after the World's Fair, the headquarters of the All Star Squadron is in that. That's
Nice.
where their headquarters are. Is the Trimble from the World's Fair, whatever it's called. These two shapes together. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, we're going to see like Hawkman fly out of the top, or somebody come running out the street level, or that's what I'm used to seeing when you read All Star Squadron.
As I'm looking this over a bit more, I feel like I have to take back what I said about them using the same colors that they originally used, because now that I'm really looking at it, I mean, just look at that first panel there on the first page. Look at the clouds.
Hmm.
There's just some subtle things going on with the colors that, I mean, I don't know if they could do that back then. The chief editor Taylor, he's got like a blue, uh almost like an airbrushed outline on his sleeves.
Hmm.
The airplane on the next page is like yellow
Yeah,
and red and green, and those, again, you got like blue and pink in the clouds around it. That, I don't know a lot about coloring, but so to say, whether or not they could have done that kind of technique back then, I don't know.
right.
But
Yeah,
I
but
would like to see it would be nice if, is the Batman story collected
um,
somewhere?
probably in the Batman in the Golden Age book.
Yeah, we'll have to look that up at some point to see how it looks, you know.
Wearing my vintage Superman under. Look, dog, my wife is the only one that gets to see my underoos, man. That's an agreement we made several years ago. It has to do with this here. So yeah, sorry.
Are you seeing a comment that I can't see?
Yes, from Hyper Potato. He said, I was hoping Ed
Oh,
would be doing the show wearing his vintage Superman underoos. And he's got the little TM up there too.
huh. I can't see that for some reason.
Uh-oh. I see
My
it.
my last comment is Doug's saying that sounds really cool.
Yep. That's the comment I have right above that.
Huh. Well, that sucks for me.
But yeah, yeah, we'll take a look and see what now. I mean, that still won't necessarily be
Yeah.
definitive because we don't know necessarily that how Batman was colored because we haven't been reading his stuff. So
Right.
it's like comparing apples to like maybe Asian apples or something. I mean, you don't know that it's a direct. And I'm not slamming on my Asian brothers and sisters out there. So don't anybody think that.
But because of the art, because of this, we have this different guy doing the art, and because of the way that it's colored here for this collection anyway, the entire time I'm reading this story, my main thought was they really must have believed in this issue because it looks like they pulled out all the stops
Hmm.
to make this World's Fair comic, you know, better than anything else that they've been putting out. And
Right.
so
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
we don't know if that's true or not, but that's the thought
And
it gave me.
let me look at this cover. Is there I wonder. Yeah, there is a price. Okay. I was gonna say, I wonder if they gave this out, but no, there's a price on there. So they sold it at some point. I don't know if they
Yeah.
sold it at the World's Fair or they sold it in August, whenever it was supposed to go on set, whatever. But
Yeah, and the
because I,
cover is fairly, the colors are flat.
yeah, yeah,
So
like everything has been up until now. It's just like,
yeah.
um, you know, color this color, and inside these lines, color that color, and yeah. What do they call that when some block? No, not block. What do they do to the colors? Somebody does to the colors before the final
Flatting.
colors are applied. Flatting. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
it's. Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
I
I knew
used to do
you'd
that.
know. I okay. I didn't, or I don't think I knew that, but the story is just is pretty standard. I don't know. There's a reference here to something that we haven't read of Superman's exploits, and that was kind of different. I think that might have been the first time that came up here, where he said, telling Lois how he recognizes the jewel thief. Excuse me. He said, "This bird is a continental crook who isn't known over here. 4 years ago in London, I covered a crime in which he was a suspect. He was released because of lack of evidence." So Clark has been Superman, or excuse me, has been working at the Daily Planet longer than we have read his exploits,
Yeah.
even though we saw when he first started there. So it's like, your time is timey wimey wobbly flobbly whatever. It's so that kind of stuck out to me.
One thing
Uh,
another thing that really stuck out for me is when, I mean, first off, for a book that's set at the World's Fair, they don't spend. It felt like they don't spend a lot of time at the World's Fair.
okay.
And it actually it seems to take, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5 pages. It's at the bottom of page 5 before we even see him change into his Superman outfit. But look at that page 6. He puts on that Superman outfit. He leaps into the air, and what is he saying?
Up, up,
It's
and
like, are you
that's
going to finish that thought, Superman? Because that's pretty close to a saying that you're famous for.
and yeah, it just stops there. The next panel is not even on Superman, so it's like,
Yeah,
oh, so there is the start of that, and that same panel, you can't tell me he's not flying.
right.
I mean, come on,
So
people.
I'm glad you brought that up because I thought the same thing. There, in this story, there are a couple of moments where I felt, all right, this artist didn't know that Superman can't fly.
Right,
Um,
right.
and I looked it up again because I remember we talked about it early on about the first time that Superman flew, and I'd read this article how it all came from the Fleischer cartoons, and then
Hmm.
Somebody, I think, commented that actually he first flew in the radio program, and so I looked it up again last night, and the column that I used to read all the time over on CBR, Comic Book Legends, that's the guy that had originally, that I read, that it all started with the Fleischer cartoons. Well, he has updated that since. It's like he updated it in 2016 to say that while yes, the reason that Superman began to fly in the Fleischer cartoons is because they didn't want to draw him jumping anymore. It was too much work. Where they could just draw him in a flying position and then move the cell, across the camera, that kind of thing. Yeah. But it did verify that, it's like the first time in any kind of media that Superman flew was in the radio show.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
How would you prove that? There is no visual.
Well,
so
because
how are you going to say?
There's it talks about that. Let me see if I can find it real quick so I can just.
I mean, unless somebody says, well, I mean, you can't go with the up in the sky because he could still be jumping.
So what it says is in the very second episode of the Adventure of Superman radio show in February of 1940, the episode was Clark Kent Reporter. It says that the episode opens stating that he is hovering in the sky. And the whole up in the sky, look, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. Yeah, that comes from the radio show as well.
Well, somebody saying that definitely doesn't mean anything, because if he's jumping and he's going from one side to the other because he leapt, it would appear as though if all we saw was him in the air, that he was flying to us from our perspective.
Yeah,
that's
well, but this makes me think that I haven't listened to the episode, so I don't know. Maybe radio. Oh, now I can see Hyper Potato's comments.
Okay. That's older than me too, Hyper. So just
maybe if anybody has listened to that episode before, they can help clarify. But the way I read that is that not that he appears to be hovering, but he's like just basically levitating, just hanging there in the air, reading a book or something, doing his nails. But it continued. They then continue to say that the first time that he, and I'm going to use air quotes here, flies in the comics is going to end up being, I think it was Superman issue number 10, and that turned out to be more of a mistake. It's seriously in one of those occasions where the artist didn't realize that he couldn't fly.
Okay.
And whereas we're seeing stuff now where it's like that looks like he's flying. They put these pages up on this website, and it's not even like he could be jumping, he's flying. He is straight up flying. And he's not supposed to be. And so that's supposed to be the first comic appearance of him flying. But then I read another article that talks about some magazine that came out in England, Torch, I think it was called, that has Superman on the cover from like late 39, maybe. I can't remember exactly when, but he is in that almost that classic pose where he's flying with the one fist out in front of the other. And apparently that was another situation where the artist who put the magazine cover together didn't know that Superman couldn't fly. And so some people say that's the first instance of him ever flying, is just this cover of a magazine. But I was kind of sad though to know that we've got to wait till issue 10 of Superman before he technically starts flying.
That could be close to as many episodes as we've already done.
Yeah.
Because we just talked about issue 4, right? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 5 Supermans at least 4 stories apiece. That's 20 episodes.
Yeah.
With probably 2, 4, 6, either 8 or 10 Action Comics in there. And then before that happens, I believe World's Finest may start up, and we start getting a monthly World's Finest strip also.
Oh boy.
So, but just one
Yeah.
at first for a while, and it's just a World's Finest. What I actually World's Finest is the second issue on the first issue they called World's Best or something like that. So
Yeah, World's Best Comics.
yeah.
The article does say, when it talks about the radio show, that when it came to what Superman could do, his backstory, Clark Kent, all that compared to the comics, the radio show just really didn't give a crap what was going on in the comics. They changed a lot of stuff.
I could see that.
It says that in the radio show, Clark Kent came to Earth already a full-grown man, stuff like that they changed.
Okay.
So yeah. I did rather enjoy this story. It was fairly standard. I wonder if one of the reasons why it felt like it was a longer story was because it wasn't as hyperactive as some of the others. He's not like, he didn't do like 19 different things in one story where he's over here on this side of the city doing this, and then he has to go and get that guy and blah 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 and back and forth. I mean, it's just simply, look, I know that guy, he's a crook, and the guy goes and gets the jewel, and then Superman gets it back. I mean, really, like you said, that synopsis, it's a very short synopsis, and it's very accurate to what happens in the book. There's not much to the story, but there was still a lot to read. You know what I'm saying?
The story itself seemed a lot more focused, not necessarily focused, but just a single track.
Yeah.
The story was this one element. It didn't bring in these other branching elements, and you go off, like you said, to see him deal with this that's related, deal with that's related. This person comes in who wants a piece of the cut, and it's like, no, it was all jewel thief, dude stealing the jewel, of Lois getting in trouble, of course.
Like always, yeah.
They got a fridger, not to the ultimate extent, but that's that's what that seems like. That was the only reason females were in stories at the beginning, was so that they could be the impetus for the heroic male to whatever, rescue or stop somebody or interact with the bad guys or whatever they're doing. So, but yeah, I did enjoy it. You don't think we enjoyed it because it was only 10 pages, do you?
I think one of the things that really lent to my enjoyment was the art. It just looked so much better than a lot. It was the whole package. It was just put together much better than most of the other stories we've read so far.
Right. Just a better product, it seems. Yeah.
So on this page here, I think it's page 9.
He's carrying the car. Okay.
Yeah. Is this the first time we see a sound effect? Because he's smacking somebody and it says "sock."
Yeah, I think so.
I don't
like, yeah, no, I can't say that. I was thinking more like the Batman TV show, but that's 20 years from now, 25 years from now. I don't think I've been reading along with a Batman Golden Age show, another podcast, and I don't think that those stories that I've been reading there really do that. Showing it, or the onomatopoeia, or however you want to classify this kind of thing.
But it stood out to me. I thought, I don't know that we've come across something like this so far in these Superman stories.
Do you think they added that for this?
Ooh, I don't know why they would.
I don't know, but look at the coloring.
Yeah.
It's got that layered kind of color blended. The action lines here have that color that you pointed. Oh man, I hope they didn't like add that.
I
No,
I hope they didn't either. That just seems like a dumb thing to do.
I'm not even sure why I suggested that. That hurts to think that
But it does look out of place.
kind of, yeah. And we haven't seen it anywhere else before now, too. So I mean,
Yeah. We
uh,
also have on page 1, 2, 3, 4 Lois with a thought balloon. Everything up to this point has been in a regular balloon with like parentheses
yes,
around what they've been saying. And actually, as we get to these Action Comics after this, they go back to that
hmm
parentheses thing. So I don't. Is that an artist? Is that an artist choice? I don't know,
yeah. I'm not
but
sure. So
that stood out to me as well.
we're seeing some new conventions that didn't necessarily take hold, but this would be
Yeah,
the first place that they did it if you're tracking, that
yeah.
sort of thing. So yeah, that's true. I didn't even realize reading it that those were thought bubbles, but yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Which is funny because I think to a large extent they've kind of gotten away from that in a lot of modern comics too.
Oh
You don't
yeah.
see thought bubbles hardly at all. It's all spoken. In
Yep.
the 70s and 80s books that I read, they think all over the frickin' place. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, now it's the thought bubble basically in the modern age has been replaced with the narration box.
mhm. Yeah,
They both do the same thing. The narration box for I guess for us modern readers feels more true, more real, more true to life than
okay.
them narrating what they're doing in their head. It feels more like they're telling us, what happened a couple of days ago.
And I guess that's more like you would see in the movies or in TV that you
Yeah.
don't the characters don't think in those
No,
mediums.
no.
So
But I'd
either
like to see that.
that'd be
As they're as two guys are battling, you can hear their
Eh,
thoughts.
yeah.
I'll jump over him and hit him on top of the head. That'd be great.
Wow, that really hurt. I need to hit him harder.
Right? Somebody needs
Uh,
to do that. Make that.
it'd be like a foreign movie voiceover almost.
Yeah.
You'd have that. Is it live or is it dubbed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Um, okay, I think I'm done with any thoughts for that particular issue.
Yeah. Let me just do a quick skim. There I mean, I like the bad guys, international jewel thieves. They everything about this, except for the fact that Superman is part of it, is really quite normal. It's very conventional. They to take out the armored car, they come in with gas masks and use gas grenades basically, instead of some weird thing. Luther would probably do
Right.
some weird magnetic green laser beam thing, but yeah, there's nothing that really makes this story stand out other than the art over over anything else.
Right. Yeah,
It's
I
very
agree.
it's a very conventional story, and yet I want to I'll have to look up this artist because I want to see more from him. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, done.
Who was it? Jack Burnley.
Jack Burnley.
So you can probably go to the Grand Comics database and get a nice big
Yeah.
listing of all his stuff. Alrighty, guys. I think we have run out of poignant things to say about this issue. So we do want to thank you for listening. And until next week, I'm Ed. That's Steven. And this was the Superman Super Show. Ciao.
Bye. If this is your first time watching us live, this is the portion of the show where Ed and I save the Audacity files that we just used to record each end of that conversation. And then through magic, they will be joined together in one
In holy
massive.
patrimony. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah. Okay. It took me a second to understand what you were trying to say. No, I get it.
Patrimony. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Again,
I was
not the
being
sharpest tool in the
yeah,
shed.
I was being overly clever, and so it came out dumb. It sounded differently in my head, so that's my defense.
Oh, I've done that. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. It's like that sounded so good in my head, and I wish I hadn't said that out loud.
Yep.
But that I don't think that's that's not a you should be embarrassed for saying that because I thought it was
Oh,
good. It just took me a minute to
they,
get it.
it's like when I make a joke and it falls flat with Terry. My defense is well, they can't all be home runs. So
Right. Right.
all right, let's see. Did you? Yes, you did. And we will start up the next one, and we're good to go.
Wow, Hyper Potato wants to see Zatanna in her underoos. I mean, she's practically wearing underoos as it is.
Well, I think it'll be several years before we see Zatanna. We have Zatara in in action. I think actually is where he's popping up.
Yep.
That's her daddy. So I don't know, at what point he had offspring, but I think it's going to have to be a little while farther than where we're at.
He didn't fight crime in the fishnets, did he?
He had slacks, but I am not privy to what he wore under his slacks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not,
He's
it's
wearing them
and
fishnets underneath the pants.
I'm referring to Milton Berle. That's the only thing I have to go on. So it's possible, At least I crack
Yeah.
myself. Well, yeah. Sometimes I'll come back with well, at least one of us is reasonable, or if one of us is reasonable, it's okay, or
Yeah.
something, But yeah, I get you. That's those wives, boy. They're good for keeping things in check.
Yep. I've often said that my dumb jokes I tell just for me, but that's a lie. We all know that.
Hey, one of the coolest creations ever is the dad joke. I'm sorry, but I'll go to my grave thinking that.
I got us a calendar for 2023 that's a dad joke calendar. It's got a different dad joke for every day of the year.
Every day. Ooh, wow.
Some good stuff. Some of it's just, because not, again, like you said, not everyone can be a home run.
Yep.
But yeah. My favorite one from this month it's a really quick one. What's the leading cause of dry skin?
What?
Towels.
Okay.
That stuff makes me laugh.
There we go. I mean,
All right, we ready for episode 46?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're listening. I have got this crap in the back of my throat. Drinking the coffee is probably not doing anything to make it any better. But it's been sticking there for weeks. You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 46, Professor Cobalt's Clinic. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Steeven, and 1,000 miles over there to my right is another host, Mr. Ed Moore.
Howdy.
And how's it going?
Hyper says, but okay, so most of my free time is spent reading comic books. Okay. And actually, truth be told, I think most of the comic books I read are not for a podcast. So I'm fortunate that I have the time to read that much. One of the main things that I read that I have been doing for several years now is what I call my complete X/adjacent read through. And what I'm attempting to do is read all of the X books and the ancillary titles of the X characters, but then also maybe appearances of some of the villains or origins of the villains and things like that. So that's the adjacent. So I am just finishing up this weekend I have a couple more issues left. The 1989 Inferno story arc, which
Okay, yeah.
anybody that was into comics in 1989 remembers that. I think my recollection is that that was the first multi-book X-Men crossover, which now has become an annual thing. But it was X-Men, X Factor, and New Mutants.
I think it would have been the first one that they actually, because they had the Inferno logo on top of
Hmm.
all the books and stuff, but they did have the Mutant Massacre that came before it that went through like X Factor and X-Men
No, yeah, you're
and
right. I'm sorry. That would have been Thor Power Pack. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's right.
even a
Okay.
Daredevil issue.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. Now this
uh
one, Inferno. There's, I think also, if you look, there's like 6 or 8 books that were non-X that also had like 2 or 3 consecutive
yeah,
issues that bore the banner that even in the X books, these other characters never really showed up. So I mean,
yep,
they even did their own, mini story in relation. I guess
yeah.
trying to pick up sales by saying, "Oh, well, we're
Mhm.
part of this," even though it's like, well, you weren't. But okay,
Was Inferno, was Apocalypse the big bad in that one?
no, it was Maddie Pryor,
No.
where she
Oh,
had taken
okay.
over Limbo. Well, she was
Mm,
using Limbo to invade the Earth with demons, and that was right about the point that everybody who mattered, all the other X people, started realizing the X-Men were alive after seeing them die in Dallas and them living in Australia. Um, and the others thought the other group was dead, and
yeah.
so Scott left Maddie, and he thought Maddie was dead with their child, and now he finds that she's alive and the child's alive, and yeah, so very, it,
Very
it's
soap opera.
but it's right in the
Yeah.
heart of what I really liked about X-Men, and what I
Yeah.
miss that is not there, I feel now. So
Yeah.
it's I'm reading it. A lot of these books are rereads for me because I bought them at the time and have read them a couple times since then.
Yeah.
Now, some of the ancillary stuff is where we're getting into stuff that I haven't read before, but yeah, it's right in my nostalgic heart with the
Yep.
X books. So I'm really enjoying it for that.
Yeah, I was reading it at the time. I don't think I've read it since. I do have again, whenever Comixology ever does one of their big sales,
Hmm.
and they did an X-Men sale, and so I got like Inferno and Fall of the Mutants and
Okay.
a bunch of those from that time for like 6 trades for like $8 or something like that,
Right.
and they're
Yeah.
just sitting there on my digital shelf, just waiting for me to one day crack them open, and hopefully they don't disappear when I'm ready to start reading them.
Well, yeah.
But
Yeah. Really.
yeah,
Twitter and Comixology.
yeah, right, right,
The two biggest things comic book fans have right now, and both of them are like, well,
yeah, they're kind of.
yep.
So, speaking of which, that kind of leads me into what I was going to banter about. Now, the last time we got together to record, at the end, after we finished the last episode and before we stopped being live, uh, we talked about the idea of me doing a Conan
Yes, we
podcast.
did. Yes, we did.
Well, I did it. There's an episode out there, and I'll tell you what, if I could judge what's going to happen with this podcast just simply with that first episode, it's going to blow up because I have over 300 views, downloads so far.
Wow.
Now, I think it's because, one of the points that you and Doug had made this last time was nobody's really doing a Conan
No.
podcast. So I think that's part of it. I think people are curious. They're like, ooh,
What?
Conan.
What?
We'll see.
The reason really doesn't matter.
Yeah, but we'll see if we'll see what happens when episode 2 comes up. For those watching live, it's going to go up on Friday. Phoenix on the Sword, really good story. If you're just listening to the episode 2's out already. Go listen to it. Go. Good stuff.
How many versions of that story did you use?
Just 2. There was only 2 that I could find, Marvel and Dark Horse. Doug says first episode was great. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that.
Okay, this wasn't one actually based off of a short story that you read or anything like that?
No, it is. Phoenix on the Sword is the first published Robert E. Howard Conan story.
Okay.
And then Marvel did their version of it back in, I think it was like Conan the Barbarian Annual #2 in the 70s. And then Dark Horse did a 4-issue miniseries based off of it in 2012.
Okay, I thought that you said that you were also reading the actual short stories and whatnot as well.
Yeah. So the first thing I do is I read, because I have an audio book with all of the Conan short stories on them. So
the originals.
I listen to it, and then I read the comics, and then I go back and listen to it one more time, because they're not very long. When they say short stories, they're short stories. But it's amazing what he can put into one of those, and just how they're really, at least this one was really good. Frost Giant's Daughter, but this one's really good.
Well, then that's 3 versions, the actual and 2 comic versions. Okay.
Yeah. When I say 2, I just mean
comic versions.
Right. Yeah. I read the original story, and then I see how many times it's been adapted in comic form. So, and both of the adaptations were really well done in their own fashion. So I think it made for a good episode.
I would say the one had to be a bit more decompressed in comparison to the other. So
Oh yeah, most definitely.
That would be one difference there between the 2, but that's not good or bad, not a judgment, just an observation.
And I go into it in the episode, of course, but like I said, this is the first Conan story that was published in 1932 in Weird Tales magazine. Not necessarily the first one he wrote.
Right.
And Conan is a king in this story. He's already the king, the king of Aquilonia, and it was actually originally a Cole the Conqueror story that he couldn't sell. It got rejected, and so he changed it up. He rewrote it, and made it a Conan story instead, and that sold. And the Cole story is out there. They did end up taking the original Cole story and printing it in some collection that I don't have, but I really want to read that at some point. But yeah, I'm kind of having fun. I've already listened to the 3rd story, the Scarlet Citadel, and it's really good. So that's where we're at with Conan, thanks to you and Doug.
Cool beans, man. Glad it's been positive doing that. That's cool.
All right. You got any more banter?
No, I'll save what little I got left for one more episode there.
I have one more banter topic, and we'll do that in the next episode.
Gotta stretch that stuff out now.
Stretch it out.
Yeah.
If I keep talking, then somebody's going to play that music that tells me to leave the stage.
Yeah.
They're going to play me out. All right, so today we're looking at Professor Cobalt's Clinic, which appeared in Action Comics number 26. This was written by Jerry Siegel, penciled by Paul Cassidy, and inked by Paul Loretta. Action Comics number 26 has a cover date of July of 1940, but according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, has an approximate on sale date of May 23rd, 1940. And let me tell you what happened. This synopsis also comes from Mike's Amazing World of Comics. Professor Clarence Cobalt is denied advertising space in the Daily Planet by the editor. Cobalt is considered to be a quack doctor who takes advantage of the injured people. Clark Kent and Lois Lane are sent to investigate his clinic, where they meet a patient who is given sugar pills instead of real medicine. Lois goes undercover to expose the phony doctor. When Cobalt and his assistant discover the ploy, they kidnap Lois and Clark. While locked in a separate room, Clark uses his powers to escape and rescues Lois as Superman. Then he also steals a safe containing the records of Cobalt's illegal activities. Clark returns to the room without the crooks knowing he escaped. They release him when they see the article Lois has written exposing them. Worried that they become that doesn't make a lot of sense. Worried that they become exposed, the doctors visit the families of their patients and retrieve the fake medicine from them. Superman contacts the families also and informs them of the scam. Angered by the doctor's manipulation, the families try to lynch Cobalt and his assistant. Superman stops them and gets a confession from Cobalt, bringing him to justice. Ed, how'd you feel about this one?
No coercion there. It was kind of similar to the next story in that it was the bad guys taking advantage of people who were in a bad place. Not exactly. This one is sick people. The next issue is not sick people, but still the concept. It's not like the bad this union or jewel thieves as last episode, or the bad paper smear people or a bad politician or things like this. These two stories, interestingly enough, back to back, were nefarious people preying on those of lesser stature somehow.
Yeah.
This time it happened to be sick people. So that is that is most definitely something that occurs nowadays in real life. So
yes. Yeah.
It's not going to get too much more real than a huckster selling snake oil to sick people. That's so maybe
I heard a comedian the other day make a joke that the over the last number of years the word snake has been changed in the English language to essential.
Essential oil, huh?
Essential oils.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was the story that triggered a memory when I was reading the Grand Comics database.
Okay.
There's a note here for this particular strip that said that by third-party people, or let's see, no, wait a minute, no, I'm sorry. Originally, it was credited to Wayne Boring as being the penciler for the first 5 pages of the story.
Okay.
Then somebody came in afterwards who is familiar with different artists in a more modern setting and said, no, that looks like that was Don Commissaro, a name that I've never heard with Superman so far. But that same person then went back with some assistance from another person who is very familiar with Superman art, and the Grand Comics database attributes the first 5 pages to Paul Loretta as far as the art.
Huh.
So also Todd Klein was initially credited with the lettering, but then again, some people who are more familiar with this over time said, no, that looks like it's Frank Schuster's hand lettering, which of course it's all hand lettering. So
yeah.
The Grand Comics database says that it was Fred or Frank Schuster on or Schuster Schuster on letters. So they have Siegel on script, and then Loretta and Cassidy ink, Siegel and Schuster studio, or Siegel on script, Loretta and Cassidy on pencils, Siegel and Schuster studio on inks, which probably means it was a rush job to get it done.
Yeah.
And then Frank Schuster on letters. So, and I only point that out because a lot of people who look at that kind of information kind of consider the Grand Comics database as a um, reliable resource for the information. So
Yeah.
somebody else is liable to throw out these names in those situations, also
Okay.
talking about this. So
Yeah.
who it is, unless you were there, you probably
Yeah.
really and they signed it. We have no way of knowing
Yeah.
now, really. So
Yeah. And after learning, that Bob Kane, for example, had, a whole, studio of assistants that
right,
worked for him that would often be the one penciling a lot of those Batman books. But because they were hired by Bob Kane, they were working for him, he was the one who got credited for the artwork.
right,
So,
yeah. Who is the? There's a big name espionage men's action thriller author whose books not let's see, the name Clive Kessler came to mind, but that's not it. He wrote the story about the Russian submarine that Sean Connery was in the movie.
Tom Clancy.
Yes. If you look now, every book that has Tom Clancy on it has another writer. It's just got Tom Clancy's name on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is Tom Clancy even alive anymore, or has he passed on?
I don't know. I don't know. I
But
mean,
yeah, it's
I don't remember how old he would have been back when he was like really popular in the mid 80s. So,
right. Yeah, so he's oh, and he also wrote the Jack Ryan novels.
yeah.
Cool. I like Jack Ryan.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, he died in 2013. So Tom
Okay. Yeah.
Clancy being on a novel now is I don't know. I guess he's credited for creating the concept, and that's how his name can still be on the novels. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
But
he like some art authors, his all those books that he wrote back then, The Hunt for Red October, um, Clear and Present Danger, Patriot
mhm,
Games, they all starred, the hero of that was Jack Ryan.
mhm,
And so they were just, so basically that's the Tom Clancy universe. So that's probably what we got going on now, just other authors continuing the story in that
okay.
universe. So yeah. I was a big, I was a big Tom Clancy fan in like the mid to late 90s.
I read some stuff, but I haven't read a whole lot of his stuff.
Yeah. I had a job at the time working third shift that was very uh sat at a table and just did things, just connected stuff. And so they allowed us to bring in our Walkmans, yes, with tapes. And
Ooh.
I listened to just a crap ton of books on tape back then.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be an excellent time to do that for sure.
Yeah. So with this story here, do you have any moments that you want to point out as maybe your favorite?
My favorite. Okay, let me slide through here. Um, I don't have to look very far. At the very beginning, one, two, three, four panels in, we see Clark Kent with a backbone and a set of cojones,
Yep.
which is the first time we have seen that from him. It kind of was in the presence of Lois, I think. Let's see, you don't really know if she's in the room or if she's watching from just outside the room, the other side of the door. Not sure
Yeah.
how much she saw, but yeah,
She
Clark could.
she witnesses him throw the guy out.
Right, which is
But
kind of the culmination of
yeah.
that scene. Yeah. But yeah, Clark gets mad at somebody. Well,
Oh yeah.
he doesn't get mad. He's protecting somebody is what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he grabs up a cane that Dr. Cobalt, Clarence Cobalt, has. He's about to strike the editor because he gets so mad at him, and
Yep.
Clark, I guess, is standing right there watching this or listening or whatever, and he rushes in and grabs the cane and breaks it. And then physically throws the doctor and the pieces of the cane out of editor's office there. So yeah, he finally, and you can see, not in an attempt to lose our all ages tag, but the fact is, you kind of see Lois get a little moist there watching
Yes, you
Superman.
do.
She's
Yeah.
got that look. So yeah, finally, her hero has arrived.
Yeah, and I like how, because she's like, my gosh, can it be that I've misjudged you? And he's wiping sweat from his brow with a handkerchief. I guess I was so angered I forgot myself. Yeah,
And this is one of those places where you mentioned last episode where he talks, but then he thinks, and it's in the
yeah,
same bubble. It's just separated.
yeah. And the editor Taylor points out the way he broke that cane in his bare hands. Woo!
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And,
And
and
Professor Cobalt, or Dr. Cobalt, or whatever he
what?
is a ridiculous looking individual.
Oh yeah.
He's got a big, giant, bushy red beard and big mustache, and he's got the glasses that just perch on your nose and with a little string hanging
Right,
from it.
attached
And
to a chain. Yep. He's
yeah,
walking with a cane.
and he's there because he wants to advertise his clinic in the Daily Planet, and the editor's telling him no, because you're a quack. We're not going to run your ads. And that's when he gets mad and he's going to beat him with his cane. And that's when
Well,
Clark
he
comes in and
wants to advertise his essential oils or his snake oil. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
Lois, through a lot of this, is wearing a big bow in her hair, which
Mm,
makes her look like a 12-year-old.
is a little different, and we have some coloring issues too. In a lot of scenes, her dress appears black, but in one scene, it's yellow.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm not sure which it's supposed to be. I think actually with the yellow bow, probably the yellow dress would look better than a black dress. But
Yeah. Yeah. But this is that was one of my favorite moments as well. I was hoping you were going to say that, because
yeah,
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 right off the
absolutely.
bat,
That
you're
was
like, all right, go Clark, and but then of course he has to be like, oh, oh, I'm getting the vapors. That's not usually how I am,
yep.
to try to. He
Later on,
doesn't
he
want to.
reverts right back to kind. He and Lois are snagged by the doctors, and he goes right back into his weak fop kind of personality there that he does. So it was a momentary lapse.
Take a look at page 3, panel 2.
Okay. Whoop, whoop.
It's like a thought bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all the little dots, though. It's
And
weird.
it's not a string. It's like a
Yeah,
cloud of dots up
yeah.
to the.
It's like
Yeah.
bubbles are actually coming out of his head or something.
Yep. Well,
And
they're not
it's
used
the
to doing thought bubbles.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah. And it's at first I thought, oh well, here's another thought bubble, but it's all the word balloons in this story are cloud like,
Hmm.
whereas in the previous story they were all more blocky
Right.
word balloons, which I I'm going to assume that's a letterer thing.
I think it is.
They
Yeah.
yeah, so that was kind of weird. Professor or Dr. Cobalt's assistant is also a ridiculous looking individual, especially when he starts acting tough. Because the moment he starts acting tough, like he's going to beat up Clark or something, I don't remember exactly where it is, but I just like, really? you don't you don't look like a bruiser, but apparently he is.
Yeah. No. Neither one of them really do. Um. S- t- Superman or Clark, however you want to look at it, spent a lot of time and energy making no allowing the doctors think that he was captive, and he left and came back to that situation
Yes.
several times, and I'm like, just have Superman rescue you and get it over with. Just quit that.
See, I like to think that it's not him trying to make sure that these doctors don't know that he's Superman, right? I gotta pretend to still be Captain. I like to think it's just him screwing with them, because
Okay.
he escapes, he bends the bars of the window, goes out, and then he comes back, bends the bars back, and then quickly puts back on his suit, and then
Right.
ties himself back up. I like to think it's just Clark just screwing with him.
Yep. He's captive, but he escapes and gets Lois and delivers her to safety and comes back.
Yeah,
Then he escapes and gets some incriminating evidence and puts it somewhere safe away from them so they can't destroy it, and goes back to being captive. Then he escapes again and takes the information that he had gotten, a safe that's got important documents, takes the safe to the paper, delivers it so they can use it. And then does he what else has he escaped yet there? Yeah, I guess
yeah,
I guess he
because
really doesn't return there. So
because after the first time he returns, they tie him to a pipe, and he busts the rope, goes out, steals the safe, takes it to the Daily Planet, comes back, ties himself back up to the pipe. So he does it twice. 2 times he escapes and comes back.
yeah, it just
And
yeah,
after he escapes that second time and he's running through the house, there's this great moment where he sees the two bad guys in this room that he needs to get into. Now, why he doesn't just, as Superman, just go, get out of my way, and push him out of the way and take what he needs and leaves, I don't know. But at this point, he decides stealth is the best option. And first of all, these guys have at least 3 different safes in this house.
yeah,
The big one that he steals, he takes a small one in this scene and throws it down onto the floor to distract them. They're like, oh, what's that? And as they're leaving the room, he somehow jumps up into the doorway, grabs the top of the door jamb, swings over them without them seeing, and then stands on, I think it's called the lintel above the door, which those are some high ceilings,
I was going to say people nowadays would give big money for this place because of how high
right?
those ceilings are, man.
Yep. And then and then that's when he steals the first safe. He throws a small safe, steals the first safe, but he goes back and takes a third safe that has money in it.
Right, yeah.
So
Hyper says, doesn't everyone have at least 3 safes in their houses? Well, I guess in 1940, is that when this was? The answer is yes.
I have 3 safes if you subtract 3.
Yeah,
Then
that's me.
then I have
I've
exactly 3 safes.
I've got 3 closets. Those are my safes, I guess.
And this is a story, if you compare it to the World's Fair story. We said in the last episode that the World's Fair story was very conventional. It was just kind of one thing happened, bad guys steal something, Superman stops them, gives the thing back to the World's Fair. This one, just complete opposite. So much is happening to the point that even when he gets the evidence to convict the 2 bad guys, at some point I think it's as he's talking to all the families,
Mhm.
there's a child that is in really bad condition, so he takes the child to the hospital, but the only doctor available that can help this child is like on the other side of the country. So then he runs there really fast, and it's not even enough that he gets there really fast and gets this doctor, but there's a hurricane at the same time,
Right.
and a house flies at them in the hurricane, and he punches the house out of the air. It's just this is the over the top golden age crazy Superman stuff that I love.
So much so that you have to ask, were these the same writers?
Right?
I mean, because it's just
Yeah.
the stories truly have just a completely
Yeah.
different feel to them.
Yep. Yeah.
And
I agree.
not just that, but this story is like the one before World's Fair.
Yep.
So those are similar, and then you have the World's Fair story in the middle of that sandwich that is different. And it's like,
Yeah.
so you mean to tell me all three of these had the same writer? And I'm just like, I don't, I don't see that at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's like because the World's Fair, yeah, it's that story sticks out amongst these others like a sore thumb. And
Yeah,
so not only is it a different artist, either DC like came down on Siegel and said, "Look, this is going to go out to more people because we're selling it at the World's Fair. So we need to let's just calm this story down a bit." Or yeah, they said, "Yeah, we've got somebody else who wrote this. We're going to put it in the World's Fair comic, but since you guys are the Superman guys, we're going to stick your names on it."
right. Yeah, we've got another story we want to use. You keep writing the regular book. Don't
Yeah,
worry, we got it
yeah,
covered. We'll put your name on it. It's good. Nobody will know.
yep,
Nobody will know. What? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Unless you're paying attention, nobody's going to
Yeah.
know.
Yet, here 2 Menches almost 100 years later are like, that's not the same dude. So no.
So
What about
since
this
you since
machine that they put Lois in? A special heating
the
cabinet?
the heat machine, yeah, that was weird.
Where, where did that? Yeah, like you said, it's just like, okay, we have 13 pages. We're going to break it up into, 79 panels, and we have to get as many things in all those panels as we can. And it's just crammed full of most of this. I'm sure is going to turn out to be, just one-off concepts, but it's like,
Yeah,
what what there's a lynching in
right.
several panels
That's
after that. There's
that
like
shocked. I was shocked by that. I was
like
legit.
what?
Those dudes are dangling from a tree. They're
They,
literally
they are.
there's
You can
motion
see their
lines around their
feet.
feet. They're kicking their feet and oh my god. So yeah, okay. So after all that crazy stuff with him escaping, coming back, escaping again, throwing a small safe, stealing a big safe, taking the big safe to the Daily Planet. Um, and then he goes back to the Daily Planet at one point because he goes to visit one of the families and they can't help him. They don't have the medicine because Cobalt and his man came and took it and destroyed it in front of him. So he has to go visit the other family. So he goes back to the Daily Planet, takes the ledger out of the safe, flips through it really fast. He's got photographic memory, so he's a speed reader and he's
Of
got a
course he does.
photographic memory.
Yep.
And then the kid is sick. He takes the kid to the hospital, goes runs across the country, gets the doctor in the middle of a hurricane, punches a house, and that's not even the end. Then we
No.
have Lois put into a special heating cabinet, which is
Right.
literally a box. It's like this metal box that is about as tall as a because her head's sticking out of it, but it's got a glass dome over her head.
Like one of
There's
those old timey like steam machines that would open
yeah,
up and or cabinet, that they would like sit in and it would close. Yeah.
and there's like these glowing vacuum tubes in the
Right.
back of it, and then all the families show up. And so Superman isn't the one that saves Lois this time. All the families show up, string the two doctors up, and Superman happens to arrive just in time. He basically breaks the branch that they're hanging from, and they drop to the ground. And then that's when he tells them, "Look, these people are going to kill you. I will protect you, but only if you confess to your crimes." And they're like, "Yes, whoa, we did it. Take us away." And I mean, yeah, again, obviously it had to be a different writer on that other story because
Yes.
that
I
does
mean,
not give me the same emotional, jacked up, just adrenaline rush that this one does.
now this did have 3 more pages, but that doesn't account for the difference in the way that the story
Yeah, right.
feels, but yeah, and but you he rescues the two guys, but the frantic doesn't stop there. He takes the two guys, he knocks them out, he throws them in a Brinks truck, flies the Brinks truck to the newspaper. Oh, is it the newspaper? No, a police station. And then that's where they have to go in and confess. And then, of course, like every story, it does finish at the Daily Planet with Clark, getting some kind of attaboy for something he did or whatever. But it's frantic. That is the description for what has become the typical Superman story at this point, other than the World's Fair story. But it's very frantic it's just like let's pull in as many things and come up with as many new things as you can, and let's put it all in 13 pages. Let's and yeah, you're reading it and you're like you just feel it as you're reading panel after panel. It's like, oh man, come on.
Yeah, because you keep thinking, all right, here's where naturally the story went in. Oh nope, it went up 3 more levels, and then now here's where it went. Oh nope, it went up 3 more levels, and it just keeps going up. And
crank it up,
when he rescues the doctors and they agree, all right, we'll confess, help, keep us safe, and he tears the gate off of the front of the wall of the house and uses that to hold the people back. And then that's when he steals the third safe. So he runs into the house, grabs this safe, brings it out, opens it up, and says, "Look, here's a bunch of money. We're gonna donate this to what is it? Oh, President Roosevelt's infantile paralysis fund,
yeah,
which is a real thing, because they tell us at the end of the story to donate to that. And I love that part because he's holding them back with the gate, and he says, "Back and listen to me calmly." And then he comes running out with the safe. "Be patient, and I'll show you a sane, just way to exact your vengeance. Hanging is too good for Cobalt and Grafton. Send them to jail, and this money to President Roosevelt's infantile paralysis fund." And they're like, "He's right, a swell idea." And as they're doing this, the 2 doctors who agreed to confess are now trying to flee. They're trying to run away, and he cracks one of them in the head, which knocks into the other guy's head, and literally tosses them into the back of that truck.
What about the way he's holding Lois when he throws them in the truck?
Yeah, he's got her tucked under one arm, and he's throwing the other guys into the thing. He picks up the truck, jumps to the police station, and then as he's jumping away, Lois is like, "Wait, let me thank you," and he says, "Some other time." And then we get that ending that's like a cop show from the 80s, where they have the ending where they're all together to talk about how great everything went, and then they all freeze frame. Ha ha!
They're sitting at the bar, having one. Yeah.
So if I was just looking at this one and the story from last week, this one blows last week's away. The art in the World's Fair story, much better. I would love to see that artist do one of these crazy stories.
Oh man. Whew. Yeah, that would be awesome. But yeah, this is more like what we're used to with Superman at this point.
That I'm just looking at that panel again of those 2 guys hanging from that tree, and I just I mean,
there is no doubt what is going on. I mean, it's not like,
oh yeah,
well, we're inferring that. No, that is what they want you to understand is happening to those men by the way it's drawn.
Yeah, because you have the one panel, the families come in, they rescue Lois, and one of them's yelling, "Lynch him, lynch him!" And then the very next panel is Clark talking to the editor. Right. Sorry, Chief, I couldn't get the medicine. And then, bam, very next panel, 2 guys hanging from a tree. And I kind of, had I been drinking something at the time, I would have done a spit take, because I didn't. The figures are so small in that panel that it's not something that your eye is drawn to the moment you come to that page. So even though it's on the same page as them saying, let's lynch him, I didn't see it coming. And so it surprised the crap out of me.
Yep.
Good story. Good story.
Fun. a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Superman saved 2 white men. Okay, let me state that. 2 white men from lynching.
Yep.
So they didn't go, some other nationality or something like that. It's like, no, educated, let's say, if they're both doctors, we can assume 2 educated white men he saved from lynching. And they were very close to not making it because they were already up and kicking.
Yes, they were. There, and depending on how it was done, a lot of times what gets them is the neck crack when they drop.
The drop.
So yeah. Those dudes were lucky.
Yep.
And still they try to run away. That cracks me up even more. It's like, hey, he's not looking, and they're kind of shuffling away, But and then when we get to that very last panel that says help fight infantile paralysis, contribute to President Roosevelt's fund, it's like tonight on a very special episode of Blossom. That's what then how I kind of defined this story was, all right, so they had a purpose behind this, is they were drawing attention to this infantile paralysis syndrome, but in a hugely crazy way.
Yeah.
I wonder if President Roosevelt read this and went, what is he doing? What? I don't want my name associated with this.
Yeah, I don't know. That'd be interesting to know if he was ever shown. Mr. President, what do you think of this? They did what you asked them to do. What do you think?
Yeah, it's like in the 80s when whoever it was, it may have even been the government, approached Marvel and said, hey, can you guys do a comic book story about the dangers of doing drugs? And then Stan Lee, they did that Spider-Man book and they didn't put the Comics Code Authority on it. It's Hyper Potato says bonus points for the Blossom reference. Yes, thank you. But it's like that. It's, I wonder if the government actually came to DC Comics and said, hey, we need to get the word out about this fund and we're trying to raise money. Can you do a story around that?
Yeah.
And they were like, I guess we've already got this crazy story that we can just insert this infantile paralysis thing into it, which I meant to look up and I didn't. So I'm not sure exactly what infantile paralysis is. I thought I saw something in there that may have mentioned polio.
Poliomyelitis was the doctor was an expert in poliomyelitis that he went and got.
Okay.
But the girl had paralysis of the chest is what they said she has, and I don't know if back then that was considered the same thing as polio, which I think is what poliomyelitis is. I'm not sure either. I didn't research all those things. Thinking just to add more points to your Blossom reference, I believe I just read an article where she's been replaced as the host of Jeopardy.
Oh yeah.
The article, the headline in the article was Jeopardy gets a new host. So I don't know if she was permanent or if something has happened or whatever, but I know she was hosting it there for a while recently, I thought.
So I looked up infantile paralysis and yeah, it's polio.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
We know that can affect the brain and spinal cord.
We know that he suffered from it. The president,
yes, he did. All right. Anything else?
I gotta take a rest, man. No, I can't do any more of that. Whew.
Need to take a breather. Need to, take
calm
the
nerves, the blood pressure. Yeah.
Palate cleanser.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for listening to this crazy episode about this crazy story, and we hope that there will be even crazier stories in the future. But until next week, folks, my name is Steven, and that's Ed, and this was the Superman Super Show. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Hyper Potato, quit watching Jeopardy during all the guest hosts. Did you as I save my file, were you there? Were you reading the stuff a few years back when he had Alex Trebek had the guest on, or had the contestant on, who said that they listened to nerdcore rap, and he was like, "Oh, what's that?" And he makes some kind of like a offhand reference about nerds living in their parents' basement or something like that. Did you ever hear about that?
I do remember seeing something about that. Yeah.
There's I think it's even on most of the streaming services. Some of those bigger named nerdcore rappers like MC Frontalot and MC Lars, and they got together and made a song that was like "Screw You, Trebek" or something like that.
Okay.
It's pretty funny.
He's Alex Trebek. He's already
Yeah.
He's already in the books, so
Right.
okay.
He doesn't care.
Well, especially then. I mean, he may have already known that he had cancer, so it's it's like, but yeah, it's like, I'm Alex Trebek, and you're who?
Yeah, who? Yeah.
I don't remember that, but my memory sometimes hates me. I'm sorry to hear that, Hype. I don't know what that would be like if your memory hated you. I can't remember. Shut up.
Yeah, I feel like my memory hates me sometimes. I understand that feeling. When there's sometimes I'll be writing something and it's like, or even trying to describe something to one of my kids, and it's suddenly like, what is that frickin' word that I have used 12 times a day for the past 50 years that suddenly is just no longer in my head?
Yep.
I think that's when my memory hates me. Hyper Potato liked Trebek, but he really liked Vanna White.
Yeah, I liked the concept, but I didn't really care who did it.
She had one of the easiest jobs in America, didn't she?
And it got just way famous for it.
She didn't even have to remember where the letters were. They lit up for her. All she had to do, especially there, at the beginning, she actually had to turn the letters. But then when it all became like that she just boop,
touch it.
That's a job I want. Just looking pretty and touching letters.
Touching blocks.
Yeah, touching blocks.
Or touching LCD screens, or whatever those turn out to be. Yeah, it's like, but this one, that one. Yep.
I got the looking pretty part down. I had to work on the touching an LCD screen.
Oh, well, okay. There we go.
See?
It's the hat, man. The hat does it.
Yes. Right. All right, I'm ready for the next one.
All right.
Our third and final episode for the night.
You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 47, Brentwood, Home for Wayward Youth. Hello, welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Ed, and 1,000 miles over there to my left is another host, Mr. Steeven Orr.
Hello. Ed, I got a question for you.
Okay.
I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it, so I'm not going to mention any names.
Okay.
The episode that we're doing right now should air, and air is not really the right term when you're talking about the internet, but it should land on March 27th.
Okay.
Now, you and I got together recently with a third podcaster.
Yes.
To appear on their episode of a podcast, which I don't think he'd mind if we talked about it, but I'm just not gonna.
Okay.
But during that, at the end when we were done recording, I asked him, hey, we should get together and talk about you coming on to Just Another Fanboy at some point and figure out what we're talking about. Afterwards, after I shut the computer down and thought how nice it was to record a podcast episode that I didn't have to do anything afterwards with.
Okay.
I thought, you know what? I've never asked Ed to be on Just Another Fanboy. So we should do that. We need to,
Okay.
think about something that we want to talk about together on Just Another Fanboy. We should make that happen.
Okay. You want to talk about like a movie?
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay.
Because we could talk about anything on Just Another Fanboy.
There you go. And the reason why a movie comes to mind is because last weekend, as we record this, I had opportunity with the missus to sit and watch Morbius, Black Adam, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Wow, that's a big block of superhero movies.
Yes, it is. Those are about the only movies we watch are superhero movies. So
I have not seen Morbius.
Okay.
But is it available on one of the streaming services?
I believe so.
Maybe I'll watch that because I've seen the other three. We just talk about all four of those in just one big massive.
There you go.
Let's talk about these. Now, of course, I did an episode on Black Adam, which was kind of a tongue-in-cheek type of ripping it apart, even though I enjoyed the crap out of it. I don't know that I'll watch it a second time, but it was fun for what it was. But yeah, we'll get together and we'll talk about those because I know that you posted your opinion over on the forums, forum.justanotherfanboy.com.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I interrupted your plug. My bad.
Forum.justanotherfanboy.com.
There we go. Now we also have two more in there that we have DVDs for to watch, and that is the most recent Batman and the third Thor movie. So we still have those two.
I'd really be interested to hear what you thought about that Batman. It took me a long time to watch it, frankly. It was just within the last couple of weeks that I watched it.
Yeah, we'll probably hit those up probably this weekend. I don't think we have anything else going. So
that Batman movie was like, I spent maybe the first half of it going, yeah, that's a pretty good Batman movie. Yeah, it's pretty good. But then just at one point I was just like, this is a great Batman movie.
Okay.
So yeah. And what was the other one you said?
The
third Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those that you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah, I can understand. And I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to movies. If I'm entertained, I'm not going to trash the movie. Now there may be things that I wish that they would change or hadn't done or whatever, but it's not like, oh that sucked. How could they? No, I mean, if I was entertained, and usually my measure of entertainment is, damn, that was an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Then I was pretty entertained.
I liked this fourth Thor movie, but I heard somebody talking about that one and the previous one, both of the Taika Waititi Thor movies, and what they said made so much sense, which was the tone of those two movies, the fact that they're both very comedic and kind of over the top, crazy, cosmic type of stuff at the same time. Really what those were Hercules movies, because the way Thor acts in both of those really is kind of the way Hercules acts in those 80s comics. And I just thought, wow, that is so right. And then I felt kind of, well, crap, I guess we're not going to get a really great Hercules movie like that then.
Yeah, they won't use Herc. Yeah.
Although
if you want to see a good Herc movie, you got to watch that animated Hercules from Zero to Hero movie, animated movie. It's got James Wood as
the Disney
as Hades. Yeah,
the Disney one. Yeah,
that's a really good movie. I
I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Yep.
All right.
We ready to move on?
Yes, that's all I had on my banter sheet.
All righty. Yeah, movies was yeah. All right. So today folks, we're going to be looking at Brentwood Home for Wayward Youth. It's the title of this story. It appeared in Action Comics number 27, written by Jerry Siegel, which we'll hold off and see. We'll be the judge of that.
Yeah.
Penciled by Paul Cassidy and inked by Dennis Neville. Action Comics number 27, according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, has a cover date of August 1940 and an approximate on-sale date of June 25th, 1940. And also from Mike's Amazing World of Comics, here is what happened in the story. Clark Kent and Lois Lane visit the Brentwood Rehabilitation Home because Clark suspects the caretakers of wrongdoing. Although a cursory tour of the place shows no evidence of mistreatment, the reporters are approached by a child from the home, Davy Merrill, when they leave. Davy tells them about the abuse he suffers from Mr. and Mrs. Tweed, the superintendents. Lois takes Davy back to the home while Clark leaves to alert the police. Lois is caught searching for evidence and is locked up with Davy as a result. Clark returns as Superman, rescuing the captives. Lois stays around and is caught again while Superman confronts Mr. Tweed. And after another rescue, Superman forces confessions from the Tweeds and a new man is put in charge of the home.
I felt like we've read this one before. Possibly the first story in Superman number 3.
Is that what it was
Superman
from?
and the yeah.
With the
I just looked it up because I couldn't remember.
With the orphaned boy who they get the all clear when they visit, but then as they're leaving, somebody says, "No, wait." Yeah, it is very similar, except that this story starts out with perhaps more of the kind of relationship between Clark and Lois that we've been wanting.
Yeah, actual story growth almost.
Almost. Now they do both, of course, revert to kind because they're not ready. Superman can't fly, and Clark and Lois don't get along yet. These are things coming, But yeah, this opens and it's like, well, it's quite pleasant. Clark visits Lois at her place. She's on the phone and is like, oh, well, related to this phone call, why don't we do something other than just go on a date like we were going to do?
Yeah.
And it turns out that that change is to go investigate this home because she is getting a solicitation call from them. And Clark is like, oh, it's all the rumors and everything. She's like, no, it's a good place, Clark. Let's go and I'll prove it to you. And so instead of the date, which they almost had, she takes him on some business stuff to go, because there's going to be a story in it somehow. Either it is good and there's going to be a story, or this is why it's not good story.
Yeah.
So, but it's just very, very pleasant. The whole first page, it's just Clark and Lois, residential scene, car driving scene, being pleasant to each other, and actually it goes along for quite a while. The second page, the end of the second page, as they're leaving, is where they run into Davy and things start to break down. So almost 2 full pages of pleasant Clark and Lois.
Yeah.
And then, as the kids say, hell breaks loose after that. So
yeah, and frankly, when they first go to visit this home for wayward boys, just the way the woman, the Tweeds, was their last name?
TWE.
The wife looks like she has a permanent sour lemon face.
Yes.
At all times, and so right away you're like,
Yeah, she definitely has
her.
40s RBF for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's like they took the idea from Superman 3 and said, I kind of want to do that again, but let's make the home even worse.
Right.
Than the orphanage.
Yeah. And I figured something was up on the next to last panel of the second page as they're leaving the grounds for the home. Look at the wall and gate they're passing through. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, everything is fine on the other side of this thing that they're having to pass through. Okay, yeah.
If those doors in that wall was just a little bit bigger, it's like you'd want to say, "Welcome to Jurassic Park."
Arkham Asylum, or
Yeah,
something.
right.
Yeah, it's like, wow. And poor
And
Davy, he looks pretty bad here the first time we see him.
yeah, his he's got lacerations all over his hands. They're bleeding because the top of the wall has broken glass in it.
Well, yeah, to keep people from climbing over the
Yeah,
wall. That's
yeah.
that's standard operating procedures for Wayward homes. Yeah.
And then yeah, then we get Lois and Clark going back into their normal roles because Lois is like, "We need to go crack this case and blow this thing wide open." And Clark's like, "Oh, I think maybe we should go to the authorities, Lois." And
Yeah, isn't that what the police
so
do?
yeah, so that they split up. Lois goes to the home with the boy, and Clark goes back to tell the authorities.
Right.
And then
The
we
name of
meet
the
the watchdog.
the name of the dog.
What's the name? What's the name of that watchdog?
The name of the dog is in big bold letters. Black Satan. So yeah, it's not going to be a pleasant watchdog if name is any indication whatsoever.
And that, I mean, that's a good, because that one it's the last panel on that page, and you see the dog, and Lois says, "A watchdog," and the kid says, "It's Black Satan." You turn the page, and the first panel is them running, and Lois going, "Black Satan."
Yeah. So here the juice in the story picks up a little bit now.
Yep. They get into the house. Lois sends Davy back to his bed, basically.
Mhm.
But no, of course, they get caught. And we learn that basically there's a big factory, I guess, in the basement where they make these kids work and
Right.
slave away child labor to
Child
create
labor.
products that they ship out and sell. And there's a bank of old phones for the
Yeah.
solicitors.
Now, it's funny because you and I, this is the second time in the past couple days we've seen a bank of phones in a comic story.
That's true.
How long's it been since you saw a bank of phones in a comic story? And now we have read two on consecutive days that
Yeah.
happened.
Yep. These are those really old phones though, where it's the earpiece is separate, and
Yeah, the
you
stand-up
gotta,
phone, you speak into
yeah,
one and you have the other attached by a cord. Yeah.
you gotta click the thing up and down. And Mabel, can you patch me through to Klondike 943? So I can't imagine I've worked in a call center before. I can't imagine how much harder, how much more difficult that would be with those types of phones.
Well, imagine if you are in those four right there and all four of those people are talking at the same time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
Although
Superman,
you watch any TV commercial where there's telemarketing going on and you wonder how they ever get it done when it's like,
yeah,
I telemarketed too. And it's like, my place would never like that because it
no,
doesn't work. If that's what it
yeah,
sounds like, people are not going to respond positively.
yeah, yeah. So, all right, Lois, the boy, Davy, I can't remember
Ye-
his name now.
Davey, yeah.
He's basically put in like a freaking locker.
Yeah, where he's gotta stoop down the whole time as
Yeah.
punishment. Yeah.
Lois is tied and gagged and thrown into an actual cell with bars.
In the same room with the lockers, though. So it's
Yeah.
so they knew that they were going to have to use both forms of punishment at the same time, so they had them both built, lockers
Yes. Right.
and
Yeah.
cell. Mhm.
Lois rubs her face against the iron bars to get the gag out of her mouth.
Right?
And then Superman arrives, and who does Superman run into first?
Black Satan. And
Black
I love the
Satan.
way they draw it. thick,
Yeah.
heavy black letters for the name anytime that
Yeah.
it's written out.
Yep.
But he attacks Superman quietly from behind in a manner in which Superman does not hear him until the dog is on him. Come on.
The
Come
dog's
on.
biting on him from behind, just and not getting anywhere because, of
No.
course, he's the Man of Steel. And Superman says to him, "Now, don't get discouraged."
What is the dog thinking? Or how is the dog feeling?
Yeah, it's got a big question mark over his
Yeah.
head. And then Superman leaps into the air with the dog still clinging to his back, and he goes, "Yipe!" And then leaves the dog where?
On the end of a branch in the air, like a cat.
Yeah, that poor dog.
The dog is going to fall because
Yeah,
they're not that graceful, and it's going to get
yeah,
hurt.
yeah. How's that? Yeah, that dog's not getting down without falling. Period. Let's
Runs
see
into
here.
Lois, finally rips her cell open, and she tells him, a note about the art here. She tells him that Davy is over there in one of those lockers. So he goes and rips the locker apart to free Davy. Davy just flat out is looking very effeminate right there in that panel, I thought.
Yeah,
That just really
yeah,
struck me. It's like, that, yeah. I don't know the enhancement for this, the coloring, the inking. I don't know what it is, but I'm
yeah,
like, yeah, that looks almost more like Lois than it does a Davy
yeah.
in the face.
And speaking of Davy, poor Davy. So when Lois, the reason why she rubs up against the bars to get the gag out of her mouth is that she hears somebody moaning from that locker.
Right.
And
Right.
so she gets the gag out of her mouth, asks who it is, and it's Davy. And she apologizes to him because she can't help him because she's locked up just like him. And then she asks Davy to forgive her for getting him into this mess. And Davy responds with, "No, forgive me for complaining. It's not your fault, and I'll manage to stand somehow." Poor Davy.
That's what the dude is used to. That's how he's
Yeah,
used to
yep,
handling the
yeah.
situations. You can tell.
My favorite moment in this story is coming up right after Clark rescues Lois and Davy, sets them
Okay.
free, takes them outside, and tells them to, get out of here. I'm going to go back and take care of the Tweeds. The whole scene the whole scene of him getting back into the house, Mr. Tweed is in the basement, and he's got this iron like fire poker that is red hot, and he's using it to stuff, I guess, records into the furnace to
That's
burn
what I
them up.
figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Superman is up in one of those windows that, because it's a basement, it's at the very top by the ceiling of the basement, and
Mhm.
Superman's just kind of poking through. He rushes in, and immediately Mr. Tweed tries to smack him with this iron hot poker. And then my favorite moment happens. Superman grabs the poker and bites off the part of the red hot part of it and says, tasty little snack.
Why?
Because Superman is quippy. We've talked about it before. He has these one-liners. For some reason, they were absent from the last story.
Yeah.
But because of that, it's like they doubled down in this one. I made note of my top 3 Superman quips for the week. That's one. The next one, Mr. Tweed now is that shooting at him.
Right.
And Clark basically catches one bullet, and then he's like I think he throws it at the other bullet.
He squeezes it through his fingers.
Yeah. And he says, I haven't lost my skill at shooting marbles.
Okay, second quip.
second quip. And then the third quip, and
Not
as much as
not
I
this one.
enjoyed the biting off of the
No.
this is the top quip, Superman quip of the week. There is an anvil hanging from a chain, and Tweed basically swings it at Clark. It hits him straight in the face. The pointy part of the anvil smacks him right in the teeth, and Clark says, "Thanks for picking my teeth."
Now,
Yay!
that's a dad quip. Is what
Yes.
that is.
I may insert applause at this point. Yay, Clark. Yay, Superman.
Now, up until when Superman goes back to confront the Tweeds, the story is pretty sedate.
Yeah.
Once he goes in the house, I don't know what the Tweeds are doing or what they have been doing or what they are expecting. I don't understand necessarily how this all happens. But in very quick succession, okay, Mr. Tweed is stuffing papers in the furnace with a fire poker that he attacks Superman with, and Superman bites, in essence, he bites the cherry off of it like you would bite the end of a cigarette or something like that, and chews it. Okay, so that didn't work. Tweed runs off, and as he's running off, he tears down the side of a support that is supporting a bunch of lumber in the basement, I guess we're still in. And all of that lumber falls on Batman. Superman. So Superman breaks the lumber and chases after Tweed. Well, Tweed runs upstairs, runs into the kitchen, gets a pot of boiling water from the tap. I don't know any tap that's going to deliver boiling water, but okay. Gets the boiling water, and as Superman is running up the stairs, he throws the boiling water down onto Superman. Okay, that doesn't work. So Superman gets into the kitchen, onto the same floor in the kitchen as Mr. Tweed, who then is picking up knives and other implements that I don't necessarily even recognize and hurling them at Superman. Okay, to no effect. So then, I guess, still in the kitchen, in a drawer, is a gun that they have there that Tweed then grabs up and starts shooting at Superman. Superman catches the first bullet, and like Steven said, he performs a marble shooter move with the bullet that he's got in his hand to deflect the next bullet. So how flicks it with his thumb or squeezes it in between his. However, you're gonna shoot a, what is it? Is it a masher? Is that
I
what
don't
the
know.
shooting
Yeah.
marble is called? But okay, a game of marbles with the bullets. Okay, that doesn't work. So Tweed springs through a door, slams it shut, and bolts it feverishly. The narrator tells us. Well, the door is a freaking reinforced steel door with a big uh, bar lock on it, right? That he locks Superman out. Well, Superman breaks down that door, but for some reason in the room that Tweed went to, like you mentioned, he has suspended in the air an anvil. I have no idea why you would be suspending it in the air, but he does, and he uses that, swinging it and hitting Superman, and that's when the horn of the anvil strikes Superman in the teeth. Well, that is finally it. Tweed just finally backs down, and he's like, "Okay, okay, I give up." But no, he pulls a switch. I don't know. And two great shears snap together and smash into fragments upon Superman's body. I guess unto like a giant pair of scissors or something, something like.
Yeah.
Then we cut to Lois because we need a breather after all of this Tweed trying to kill Superman stuff. Not just subdue Superman, um, all of them. Well, except for the lumber, maybe. The lumber falling might not have killed him. Every other thing that he did was an attempt to kill Superman.
Yeah.
He was not ratcheting up to get to the point. No, he just started right off with a hot metal poker, you know, charging at him, probably going to hit him in the head. It looks like. How else is Superman going to get it and take a bite if it's not swinging at his head face?
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, so then we ratchet down. Um, Lois comes back to get more evidence, and she ends up getting bashed over the head with a vase from Mrs. Tweed, still wearing a massive RBF. I might also say. I mean, she has not had a pleasant look on her face the whole story.
No.
Okay, so we had our breather because then we cut back to Mr. Tweed and Superman. As Superman is about to seize Tweed, this is the narrator, the grafter spills molten metal on the floor and lights smashed gas lines. Okay, having gas lines in your house, okay, that's a possibility. I don't know how frequently that happened in the 40s, but okay. Why does the man have molten metal sitting around in his house that he could dump on the floor? What does he have those kids doing, yo? That you got the big shears and anvils hanging from the roof, and now you have molten metal handy that you can throw on the floor.
Yeah, they're not making shoes
I,
or teddy bears or clothes. They're
no,
in some just massive manufacturing
weapons of
in the
mass
basement.
destruction kind of stuff or something. They're
Yeah.
making bombs or tanks or so, I don't. But it's like, dude has got to be making mint off of whatever these kids are making with all of these equipment, but it doesn't stop. There's still more equipment in the house. But again, in the other story with the orphans, didn't they try to set that house on fire also with the orphans in the
Yes.
house?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. Here's a much closer repeat of what happened before. But Superman puts out the flames with his bare hands, the
Yeah.
narrator tells us. So he doesn't use his cape or no, with his bare hands.
He just beats the flames out.
And crushes the pipes together to keep them from
Yeah.
leaking, squeezes them. Okay. So Tweed so while Superman is doing all this, Tweed finally gets away. Goes upstairs, finds that Lois is there, his wife having taken her out. So when Superman gets there, Tweed and Mrs. Tweed, Mr. and Mrs. Tweed, have taken Lois. Is she bound? We don't know if she's bound really. Can't really tell. But they have placed her on one of the classic 20s, 30s black and white movie giant saw blade, uh, table running through it, person laying on the saw blade head first, going into the saw blade, actually. Not messing around, just going to take her out from the onset. So that's what Superman comes to, this big uh, plane saw or table saw large enough for a human being to lay on the platform and be advanced into the blade. Tweed threatens him, and of course, Superman's like, "Nuh-uh," rushes up, puts his hand in the way. The blades break on his hand, as they should. Once again, giving Tweed and Mrs. Tweed the chance to get out. The let's see, the saw blade just breaks up. He resuscitates Lois, who is now awake and running with him. The Tweeds try to escape in an elevator, looks like. Yeah, an elevator car. Looks like they were trying to go up. So they
Yeah.
must have still been, I guess, the kitchen or whatever room this is. I mean, he went from the basement up into the kitchen, and I thought by the way they were moving around that all the other rooms were on the same level as the kitchen, but
Yeah. Yeah.
perhaps this is a sub basement to the basement where Superman came in. I don't know, but they're in an elevator. They're in a rather substantial elevator in this residence. I thought that's all this was a residence, a big one. They have a lot of
Yeah.
kids, but
I can only assume that there is just that the basement has different levels. There's a basement and a sub basement, and it's bigger than the house above it.
bigger on the inside than on the outside. Yeah,
Yes.
right. Yeah. So they're trying to escape with the up elevator, and Superman grabs the elevator and pulls it, keeps it from getting away. But then ultimately, he gets underneath it and gives the elevator with the tweeds in it a ride to the police station so that they can finally admit to everything, because he tells them, go in there and make a complete confession, or I'll give you another ride through the sky that will make the first one appear mild. And yet, at this point, Mrs. Tweed, she doesn't have the RBF, but she still doesn't have a pleasant face. Mr. Tweed, I'm sure, after seeing all this stuff and none of it works against him, he's like, it's not possible, dog. Whatever you want me to do.
Yeah, jail's got to be better than this.
Yeah, really. I can't do anything. And of course, we have the final couple panels where the happy ending, or the whatever, however you want to describe the denouement of the story, and we're introduced to the dude, whoever he is. Clark interviews. It doesn't really tell his name or anything, but the new guy. I assume this is probably at some point later, after he's been appointed and been there a little while, made the changes, and the new director says everything is going good. Davey says everything's going good because they had turkey for lunch.
That's right.
And Superman's like, okay, cool, Davey, I'm glad it's going better for you, dog. And that's where we end it.
And apparently Clark greased the wheels. He pulled some wires, as the guy said, to get him this job. So he is either a friend of Clark's, or Clark just knows him, that he has a good reputation.
Right.
But he's there because of Clark.
But yeah, so that wasn't necessarily as frantic for as long as Action 26. But boy, once it kicked in, it was just...
Yeah, I mean, we've all seen those chase scenes where somebody is chasing somebody on foot, and as the person who's trying to get away, they're just anything that they can knock over to try to slow down the guy that's behind him. They pull some shelves off and blah blah blah. That's what this reminded me of, but like amped up to 100. Because and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And yeah, you're right. What are they doing? Whatever manufacturing facility they have down there, they're obviously doing some kind of metalworking, because they're smelting.
Yes.
They have the anvil.
Yes.
But they've also got this sawmill at the same time, and giant shears. I think they're building tanks or robots, or maybe we'll find out. Maybe this will tie into a later story where we find out that Luthor had hired them to build giant robots or something for him.
That's it. Luthor hired him. And of course, Luthor can say, well, I didn't know that he was using children. I just hired somebody to make these. And the dude is like, well, children are cheap, and that's what I went with. Easily replaceable. I just kidnapped some more, and but it's like, dude, you are in a massive manufacturing plant trying to stop Superman.
Yeah. And how did I get the fact that now they have a lot of money because of this child labor in this manufacturing plant, but something like that takes a lot of money to get started. So the Luthor thing only makes sense. That Luthor got all this set up for them, had everything put together, bankrolled the whole thing so that they could build tanks or laser guns or robots or something for Luthor. We may never find out what this was for, but I think that's what it was for.
I'll say here and now, Tweed was just a middleman.
Yep.
There was somebody bigger in charge.
Yeah, because you got a married couple who starts this home for wayward boys as a means to maybe who thinks of that stuff,
Not Tweed. Tweed is not capable, and neither is Mrs. Tweed. I mean,
yeah,
her claim to fame is smashing a vase over Lois's head. She doesn't have the wherewithal to do that.
And you combine this story with the runaway orphan, and I'd hate to be a wayward boy in Metropolis, because they do not have a good time of it.
Anywhere near there, man. The kids are living it rough in that place in Metropolis in 1940, 39, 40. Yeah, it's I would think that alone may be enough to keep Superman busy, is sniffing out these places and shutting them down.
Yep.
Because that's two. It can't be the only two.
No, and it's obvious at this point that regardless of the fact that Superman has X-ray vision, he's not proactively searching for bad things. He's not. He's just, as powerful of a character he is. He is fairly defensive. He doesn't tend to go after a bad guy until something happens. So I find that really kind of interesting.
Very reactive, not proactive.
Yeah, exactly. He's very reactive. And the Superman of today, of course, if we're talking about the Superman of today, the Tweeds would have their entire facility lined in lead.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they would know that what Superman can do. But at this point, why isn't Superman just leaping miles up into the sky and then scanning the city real quick to see, it would be kind of hard to miss a bunch of children working in a metalworking, smelting, saw blade, frickin' giant shears kind of factory underground.
Why doesn't he just stand and listen for a minute to see if he can hear anything, off? Anybody crying for help?
That's what
begging, all of these.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're saying this about the same Superman that just refuses to fly at this point. So it's like,
yeah,
fly already.
Since one of the things that we often do here on this show is, because we record these like 3 episodes in a row, we often find ourselves, even though they're separate episodes, comparing the stories that we're talking about to the stories that we recorded the same night.
Right.
So this is the 3rd episode of a block of 3 episodes that we've recorded for anybody who's listening to the episode. So we would compare it to Action Comics 26, the previous episode, and then the New York Fair, the episode before that.
Right.
I would rank, if I was ranking the 3, the World's Fair would be at the bottom. This would be number 2, and then Action 26 would be number 1.
Okay, World's Fair at number 3. I agree with that. But I think that I would switch Action 26 and 27 because of the entertainment value. For me, the Tweed Superman chase scene with, I'm not sure. I would have to search around. I've got music in my head that is playing while I'm reading that, but I would have to search to actually find the music. But that whole Tweed attack and feint, and attack and feint, and it's and that was just so entertaining to read. It's like, well, what's he gonna do? Well, yep, he one upped it. That, well, now what's he? Well, yeah, that was even more, and just that was so funny, so much fun. I mean, they were serious when they were creating it. But when I'm reading it, there was nothing at all serious about that segment of the story. I mean, it was,
Well, and do you ever wonder if, now we know that this is technically Earth 2 Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So the Superman of today wouldn't do this, but I have to wonder if at some point, Earth 2 Superman, as he got older and the conflicts grew, if he's fighting an alien invasion or something, and he just thinks, you remember when I just used to fight old couples, old senior citizens who were just taking advantage of wayward boys, and Now I'm battling aliens, the good old days.
Yeah, what the times were so much simpler back then
Yeah.
when all I had to do was just bite the cherry end off a hot poker and chew it, and,
Yeah.
they were impressed enough that yeah.
Yeah, because think of the bats, think of Superman's, I guess, rogues gallery. You've got Mongol, the Parasite, Darkseid, the Tweeds.
Yeah,
You
there you
know?
go.
It's
They
just funny.
they have their own dual statues there in his,
Yeah, in the Fortress of Solitude.
yeah, the tweed over in the corner, the
Yeah.
tweeds. Yeah.
Now I've been meaning to mention this since we started, but let's take a quick moment and go all the way back to the beginning and just look at the cover to this issue. It's has nothing to do
Mm-mm.
at all with what's going on in the issue, but I love it. He's fighting a lion.
Just escaped
Lois
from
is cowering behind him.
the circus cage on wheels that you can see. It must have been this one here behind him because it's
Yeah,
cantered. One of the wheels has fallen off, and yeah, not a
I
thing.
like this cover.
It's not bad at all. The lion in particular, that's a pretty dang good lion.
Yeah. And I
See,
noticed that this one, and I guess I really haven't been paying attention to a lot of these covers, because I know that when I believe when the Action Comics title first started, they weren't called DC Comics at that point because they didn't until Detective Comics. That's what DC's named after, right? It's
mhm.
Detective Comics. I think they were called something else when Action Comics started. I feel like I've read that somewhere. And so if you look at some of the heck, even I go back to issue number 20 of Action Comics in this collection, and it doesn't have anything on the front as far as who the publisher is. But Action Comics 26 or 27 has a little, it says DC,
Mhm.
a little tiny circle. And again, I haven't been paying attention, so I don't know when that started. And I'm trying to flip
Let's
through here real
see. Let me
quick.
go through a cover gallery. 10 doesn't have anything on it yet. Let's see. 15 doesn't have anything on it.
Issue number Action Comics 23.
Okay.
If just using this collection is the first one that I found that has a DC thing on it.
Yep. Yeah. 22 doesn't. So yeah. So there we go. We didn't miss it by very long.
Yeah.
Catching it.
But I'm surprised I didn't notice it before.
Well,
And
now see,
it's
I'm looking at 23 and I don't see a DC logo on it.
well, maybe they only put it on the digital. Let's see. Go back to it.
24 now I see has something up here. Yeah, 24 has a DC, but the cover for 23 that I called up on Grand Comics database didn't have. It still had the. Oh no! Wait a minute. Yeah, there's the little circle in the upper right
Yeah.
hand side. Yeah, okay, there it is. I'm sorry. Yeah, so 23 is the first one. The rest of the cover though has the same style cover as 22, but it just looks like somebody came with a little embossed stamp and said "pink" up there in the upper right hand corner and just pressed in the emboss for the DC logo. Is almost what it looks like. The cover is styled exactly the same as it has been for a while. Just that DC logo was added, it looks like.
So according to the internet, they were known as National Allied Publications before they started calling themselves DC.
Okay.
I'm can't find anything quickly though that says when they made that change, but yeah, found that interesting. I don't really have anything else for this. It was
No.
fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man. These two
I'm
action issues were They were
Yeah.
something else.
I mean, well, we go back a few episodes to the final Ultra Humanite issue of Action Comics, and how wonderful that was, and how big and crazy it was. And then the very next issue was just very mundane, and I thought, oh man, then we're just going to get back to just boring old. And nope, because these last two were freaking crazy. And I who knows what we're going to get next.
Well, between the Ultra Humanite and these, though, also we had all of the Luther issues, which that was it wasn't quite as frantic, but it was like we said, the stories of Luther trying different things to see what it is that affects Superman. It's almost like the Tweed did. He's just trying something to see, and Superman is just walking through it or recovering from it quickly or whatever, and so nothing is really sticking. We had several of those stories, but I think these two stories are as frantic as it's gotten in a long time for Superman.
They were almost exhausting to read. They were just so it's adrenaline fueled craziness. Looking at the table of contents in this collection, if we stick to the doing 3 episodes every time we do a block of episodes, the next 3 that we will have Action Comics number 28, the Strong Arm Assaults, and then we'll have the first 2 stories from Superman number 6, Lois Lane Murderer and Racketeer Terror in Gateson.
Oh man. Okay, racketeers, mobsters.
I like looking at some of these titles. There's another one in Superman number 6, Terror Stalks San Kaluma. Oh, this one sounds really boring. Action Comics number 30, The Midsummer Snowstorm. Metropolis's Most Savage Racketeers. That's coming up in Superman number 7.
Okay.
So yeah, fun stuff coming up, hopefully.
Well, we'll start getting some Golden Age origins of some folks. Just got to get there.
Yeah. I know that there was a time when I was lamenting the fact that when are we going to get some super villains and blah blah blah, but these last, with the exception of the New York's Fair issue, these last 2 and the Luther stories have just been so crazy and fun that I don't care that the bad guys were just an old couple running a boys' home.
Yeah, they made up for that.
Yeah, they gave Superman a run for his money. He had to work for that.
No doubt.
He had to work to get that old man.
Oh.
I don't know that he had as much trouble the last time he encountered Luther, frankly, than he did trying to get this old man
like
inside the house.
Yep.
Crazy. Yeah, I just noticed Hyper Potato's comment telling us that National Periodical Publications. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, I don't have anything else to say about that one.
Alrighty then. Folks, we definitely want to thank you for listening. And remember, until next week, I'm Ed. That is Steven. And this is the Superman Super Show. Ciao.
See ya. All right. Save that one, and then that's the night. Yeah, when you think about just the world's finest story we talked about last night with Billy, and then these 2, we've just been deep in crazy Superman stories the last couple of days.
Yeah, his big thing is the goofy stuff that Bob Haney does, but man, these 2 stories are in their own way. Now
Yeah.
it's in a separate way, but these are just as crazy as anything Bob Haney comes up with, says,
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah.
So
The Bob Haney, or at least, because really that one issue is the only experience I've had so far with Bob Haney, other than listening to a few of the Brave and the Bob episodes over the last few weeks.
right.
But it's almost like his craziness is just. I think I talked about an issue of Action Comics the last time that was like, it was in Superman. They're just throwing all kinds of ideas at the wall, and whether it sticks or not, they're putting it in the story.
Right.
And that's kind of what Bob Haney does.
Yeah. I think I made the statement that he just does whatever to get to however he wants the story
Yeah.
to end.
Yep.
Whether it makes sense, whether it contradicts, none of that matters.
Yeah.
He was paid to write a story, or well, he was told that if he wrote a story, he'd get paid. So he
Yeah.
went and wrote a story, turned it in, and got paid. That
Yep.
seems to be the relationship there. And he's not necessarily the only person like that. I think that was
Oh yeah.
in large part the kind of mentality that's what makes the Silver Age stand out. Is
Yeah.
there were all these men and some women. There were all these creators trying to break in, trying to get something, and so they're all fighting for the same bone. And they're told, "Go do something, bring it back. If I like it, I'll pay you for it." And
Yeah.
so they're I don't know him. I've never worked for him. I have no idea what he likes. So crazy. Okay, here's my story.
Yeah.
And
And you would have to assume that these writers are probably just cranking out story after story after story, because here's one, you don't like it, okay, here's another, oh, you don't like that one, here's another,
right.
and
Yeah.
so they just don't have time to go, okay, did this make sense compared to what I did 2 pages ago? Doesn't matter, I got to get this story done.
And not only that, but a lot of them, this wasn't their job.
Yeah.
They were working full time. Or they were full-time novelists, or they were whatever. So just in whatever spare time, they're trying to bang out this 10,
Yeah.
12, 14-page story to make some extra bucks, because they need to tide over into, and all of that is, I really think, is what makes the feel of the Silver Age. That's why
Yep.
it is the way that it is.
Yeah.
Which is cool, because it's much better than everybody writing, hoping that they pick it up for the next movie.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So,
Writing for the trade, or trying to
yeah,
write the next big epic story that was bigger than the last Superman story.
right. Everybody, I've got to make my mark. Last
Yeah.
dude left his mark. I've got to make my mark. It's like, yeah,
Yeah. I'm going to redefine the character, and uh, you know, 20 years from now, when they're talking about Superman, they'll mention my run,
yep.
because
These dudes, this is not what they were caring about.
no, I ain't no crap about that. Yeah.
No, they were not
Yeah.
trying to make their mark on
Right.
Superman so that the two names were always synonymous. No,
Yep.
it's
Yeah. All right. Oh, it's a little past 9:30. Doug, Hopper Potato. Okay, we know Hyper Potato, don't we?
I think so, but I don't remember.
I recognize the avatar.
I don't remember who we know him as.
Tell us who you are.
We interact with both on Twitter.
Yeah. I have an idea. It's like it could either be this person, or this person. And I don't want to.
Don't want to offend.
Yeah. Tell us who you are. I don't know why I'm saying it into the mic, considering that the mic's not connected to the phone. I'd have to tell us who you are. Well, while we're waiting on that, a movie I watched recently that I really enjoyed, The Woman King,
The
with
Woman King. Doesn't sound familiar.
she was Amanda Waller in the Suicide Squad movies.
Oh, how to murder somebody or something like that.
Yeah,
That actress. Hyper. My memory
Viola
is
Viola Davis.
Viola Davis. My memory is horrible. Hyper. I have issues and I have age. So between the two, my memory is Swiss cheese.
Ed has forgotten me. I was a regular on his show on Boom. I try to pop in sometimes here too.
I remember you being on Boom. Steven, I think, is referring to your RL name as opposed to the street name that you use here on YouTube. I think is what he's referring to.
Yeah. But The Woman King is set in the 1823 in Africa, and it's
Yes, that did pique my interest when I saw that. Yeah, okay.
it's good. My wife watched it first. Like the other day, I'm working, and I can hear her like, "Oh my God, that was so cool!" from the bedroom, and she keeps running out, going, "You gotta watch this movie. It's so good." And then we watched it over the weekend, and yeah, it's really good.
Uh, Nobody is going to be as good as Okoye in Black Panther. Uh, I believe she is pretty much the pinnacle of female badassery right now.
As I was watching The Woman King, I'm sitting here going, this is where the idea of the Dora Milaje comes from, because it's a group of women warriors who are just badass.
And I listened to a show today that made reference to the previous. Actually, it was Rob Liefeld's podcast. The previous badass women, Celine from the Underworld series,
Mm-hmm.
Trinity from Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two most recent, and then we have Okoye from the Dora Milaje there at Black Panther. Yeah, so
Yeah. Linda Hamilton from Terminator 2.
way
Yeah,
farther
going
back.
way back. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. They and to me, I'll have to agree with Rob, which is something that you probably won't hear me admit very often at all. But that is much more interesting than Stallone and Jean-Claude and
Yeah.
Arnold, and uh, those movies are entertaining, and I have watched hundreds of hours with all of those guys in them. But seeing Rambo kick ass is entirely different from watching Okoye kick ass.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just, so.
Well, Iron Man 2, when we first got a Black Widow,
Oh,
the
yeah.
scene where she and Happy Hogan, go into the facility, and she just goes through and takes out. And the
Yes.
thing I liked the most about it was, she's not a big woman.
Right.
All these men that she's fighting are like 3 or
Big,
4 heads
yeah, big
taller than
burly
her and
dude.
just
Yeah.
big. And so they did a really good job of showing how she uses that to her, she uses their strength and their whatnot against them. She's just not walking up to them and going, pow, and they
Yeah,
fall
not
down,
slugging them.
she's,
Yeah.
yeah, she's got to work a little harder. And, specifically remember, like, the one you see it's like you see it all the time now, but
Now.
where she
Yeah.
basically just kind of jumped up on the dude and wrapped her legs around him and then flipped over him, and I was just like, holy
Yep.
crap, that was cool.
Yep. That was the
But
first time. And to me, what captured my imagination was she just it was like a dance. And she
yeah,
just moved from one move to the next, one dude to the next, whatever he was trying to do. She didn't stop, she didn't
yeah,
hesitate. And then when she was done, she was like, okay, keep walking down the hall. I mean, it was like it was all part of just what she was doing to get from here to there.
Yeah, because the fact of the matter is, despite how well she fought, despite the fact that her skills as far as the way she moved and the way she fought was way better than any of those guys. All it would take for one shot right in her mouth, and
Oh yeah,
boom, she's going down.
yeah.
Because she's not big. And yeah. Did you watch Falcon and Winter Soldier?
Yes.
The scene where the Dora Milaje come in to get John US agent, whatever his
in
name
the
is.
room.
Yeah.
When
And yeah, basically Winter Soldier's like, I'm not gonna mess with them,
yeah, really.
He's almost just like, yeah. Whew.
But
You don't want to
then
mess with the Dora Milaje.
that's because at that point he had already been in Wakanda,
Yeah.
recovered, been trained by them, with them, saw them. I mean, he knew by that time that they were, so yeah.
But that says something that somebody like
That
Bucky,
uh-huh.
who has the cybernetic arm, and he is super powered, right? He's stronger than he's like.
Yeah.
I don't think they really come out and say it in any of the movies, but
he's been
he just is
beyond this. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not just that arm that does feats of strength; it's the other one as well. So for somebody as he's basically a grizzled veteran. He's seen his share of combat. For him to just go, yeah, I wouldn't mess with them. And these are women that don't have any superpowers at all.
Nope.
That says a lot.
Yeah, I really like. I want them to do that sort of thing with the Amazons in Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Which we have seen some of.
Yeah.
And I know they've got a TV show coming up, but I am so afraid that they're going to focus on let me be nice, other aspects of being female rather than Amazons. I mean, the Amazons would burn one of the breasts off mythologically so that they could use bows and the string would not be hampered in any way.
Yeah.
That's how badass that tribe of women is. And we've seen a lot of that.
There were moments in that first Wonder Woman movie. I do distinctly remember moments in that where I'm just like, man, those girls are badass.
Man, Antiope she was just, and to see her taken out in the second movie, I was like, oh, you have lost such an awesome character, man.
You would really like the
I probably
Woman
would, yeah.
King then.
Yeah.
I mean, the first scene is them coming out of the tall grass. There's like these dudes around a campfire, out in the jungle, and they just come out of the grass, and they're just like, wow, just take them all out. It's really cool.
Okay.
And they it's like they work together and coordinate some of their moves and stuff, and it's just they're pretty badass.
Okay. This came out in 2022. So see, they took a lot of that from the first Black Panther and from the Amazons in Wonder Woman and applied it to a different setting. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's on Netflix right now. So if you got Netflix.
Okay.
And it's a historical action drama, so apparently some of it is based in
probably the fact that there was a female tribe of warriors.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't sound like a big stretch to me that was possible.
Yeah. The thing I think that surprised me the most is there, as it starts, you get like a little bit of narration at the beginning. It's like in 1823, the African kingdom of Dahomey is what it's called. Immediately, I'm like, hold on! I press pause because there's an old. It always comes back to Monty Python sketches, but there's an old Monty Python sketch in which Michael Palin is playing like a TV explorer, like one of those guys that go out and on a nature documentary, and they're in Africa looking for the it was like the walking tree of Dahomey, and I just assumed they made that name up. I didn't know it was a real place.
Yeah, I recognize it as an actual. I
Yeah,
thought
I had
once
no
upon a
clue.
time there was a country named Dahomey in Africa.
Yeah. Yeah, they just refer to it as the kingdom. The guy who was the stormtrooper in the last three Star Wars movies, the stormtrooper that came over to the good guys. His name
Finn.
John Boyega. He's in it.
Finn. Yeah.
Yeah, Finn.
Oh yeah, I see him right here.
Monica Rambeau's mother from the Captain Marvel movie. She's in it. Yeah.
Now, was she? Is that who played Captain Marvel in the second Doctor Strange movie, or was that a different actress? Okay, I thought it was
that
the
was
same
her,
actress.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
In the Illuminati.
Yeah. 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 We'll try to set up, a time to get together. I'll have to watch Morbius first. Like I said, I've seen the other three. It's been a bit since I've seen a couple of them.
Well, we can talk about whatever, one, all four, a different movie, whatever. I just thought a movie because we both like watching movies, and I haven't heard you bring up movies a lot on anything so far. It's been a lot of comic book talk.
Yeah, and I'm right in the middle of the whole Madman thing, so I got 3 more of those, no 4, and then I take a break from Madman. So, but yeah, I mean that's the thing. We could start out talking about one movie, and by the end of it, we're talking about a TV show or a book or whatever. So
right.
There's really no rules there when it comes to that kind of thing. So, but I've been kind of, it's like, do I want to watch Morbius? I don't know, because I've never really liked the character anyway in the comics.
It honestly, it reminds me a lot of Venom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of iffy on Venom.
You would almost put Morbius and Venom in the same universe because of the way that the story feels, the type of cinematography.
I think they were, at least they were supposed to be. The plan that Sony had, as far as, we're going to make our own. And I did you see the last Spider-Man movie?
Where all the other Spider-Men were in it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of think that was part of the point of that movie, was to establish this Spider-Man multiverse, and that the Spider-Verse with Venom and Morbius, that's its own universe, so that if necessary, Sony could put Tom Holland in their own Spider-Man movie. It's just in a completely different universe.
I would have to say that yes, you can see that they want to do that, because there is a very interesting Spider-Man connection at the end of Morbius that is not like really any other connections that we've seen. In the end credits scene. So it's like, okay, I see what you put there so that you can set it up if you set that up. Ed and I saw Star Wars opening night, then went to TG and Y to get Luke and Darth Underoos. I doubt Ed remembers that anymore. Yeah, no, I don't remember buying Underoos with anyone. Yeah, you're right. You got me there, Hyper. Yeah, sorry. Star Wars opening night.
That might be your third Underoos mention, Hyper. I think you get 3, so you're done. No more Underoos. mentions tonight.
I do remember when I saw Star Wars actually, way back. I did see it. I didn't see it opening night, but I did see it the first year it was out.
Yeah, I don't
So,
think I did. I would have been 3 because it was 75 was when
mhm.
yeah, but then I think it came back like in 76 or 77, something like that.
Yeah,
I know I saw it in the theaters, but I couldn't have seen it the first year because again, I would have been 3 years old. So
yeah. I was 7, so
yeah. But I do distinctly remember seeing Return of the Jedi because it was at the new Cinema Twin. Oh my gosh, it's 2 theaters in one building. That
ooh.
was freaking cool.
Yeah,
What? I swear he said Underoos at least 2 other times. I gotta look.
I don't think so. I think it was the opening
No,
comment and then this one.
he
I
says
think
I was
that's just
hoping
2.
Ed would be doing the show wearing his vintage Superman Underoos,
That's 1.
and then Zatanna, I want to see her in Underoos. That's
Oh, there you
2,
go. Okay,
and
yep,
now this
okay.
one is 3. My brain doesn't work all the time, but when it works, it works. Except when it doesn't. All right. It's almost 10. So I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to Doug and to Hyper Potato because we're going to end the live stream.
Okay.
Come join us on the forums.
Yeah,
Come
you guys come
join
on
us.
and comment and add your own stuffs
I'm gonna.
there, start your own threads and stuff like that.
I may, give the forums just a few more months, and if
Yeah.
I don't know, we'll see.
Yep.
I like them. I want them there, but I don't even spend a lot of time there anymore.
Nope. I'm there probably once or twice a day.
Yeah.
Dang, forgot about Zatanna. How do you forget Zatanna?
Yeah.
That's a good
How do
question.
you forget Zatanna? Yeah.
Fishnets and all. How do you forget that?
Yeah. I look at the forums every morning. It's like I got a routine every morning, so I look at them every morning. Yeah. Then I just get wrapped up in other stuff, and that's probably most people. That's probably why forums don't
Sure.
you know
Well, I mean, it's
Twitter.
just
Got Twitter on your phone. It's always
it's
there.
like anything else. If you're gonna do it, you have to make a point to sit down and do it.
Right.
Because if
Yep.
you don't do that, it's not a quickie kind of thing unless you just want to lurk. Now, if you want to lurk,
Yeah.
that's easy to do. You don't have to log in or anything. So, but I mean, if you want to interact or stuff like that, then it takes a little bit of time and effort to do. And yeah, I can understand that time and effort are things that we spend doing other things a lot of times than something like forums.
Well, it's not even that I don't have time, because there are times during the day that I could be on there posting all kinds of stuff. I just forget about it, and that's pretty sad. That's pretty sad. So I have to be part of making it a success, right? I can't sit back and go, oh, it's not
Well,
working, but I'm not doing anything to try to get it.
there is a point to that. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, um, you have been a part. I mean, there are numbers that you can look to see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, and I'm I don't want to get into some kind of conversation that people feel dissed about. It's like no, that's not the point.
Yeah. Yeah. Fishnets under his pants. That would throw me off too. All right, Doug, Hyber, we're getting ready to end this. So we will let's see. If we try to continue this every 2 weeks, that would put us at March 14th.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like I have anything going.
We do have, let's see, this episode 47, the last one that we did, would
Before.
go up on the 27th of March. So on the 14th, we would be 2 weeks ahead.
Right. And then whatever we did on top of that.
Yeah.
So if we
So
do another 3
let's
episodes, that'll put you a month in the can at least.
let me look at my calendar real quick. I've actually started using the calendar on my phone.
And your video just went out.
It's because I changed.
Oh, because you're
Pulled up
using
my
your
calendar.
phone.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I got nothing going on the 14th of March. So let's pencil it in. It's a tentative.
Okay.
Same Superman time, same Superman channel. And the live stream is ending now.